Hey, it's Hugh Hewitt, and when I want to know what's going on with the Cavs, the Browns, and the Tribe, I tune into Sports Fix.
You are the voice of the Sports Fix. So pick up your phone now and call 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535.
Hey guys, J-Rocc here from the Sports Fix, and we always talking about using our platform to try to help the world and the society we live in, and everywhere I go and everywhere we go, bullying is one of the problems in today's society. There's nothing worse than any person, big or small, strong or weak, adult or child, feeling picked on, pushed around, vulnerable, and victimized at the hands of a bully. Change comes one person at a time, and my good friends at No Such Thing as a Bully are working on skills and techniques and ways that we can all change and make things better for everyone. Find out more at nosuchthingasabully.com.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Catch every UFC pay-per-view live in full HD at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
And away we go. Off and running, launching another week here on the Sports Fix. Welcome in, you guys. I'm feeling good, even though the voice box maybe won't match the attitude. I'm feeling good inside. Had a long weekend this weekend. Glad Dan Wismar is in the chute to join us here today. Pick up some of my slack in this conversation because I'm definitely going to be fading in and out voice-wise after, as I said, a long night. If my night the other night in Erie was like a instruction manual on if you were saying, hey, how many different types of professional wrestling matches can you have? Well, I did singles match, tag match, battle royal, a little bit of everything. I was out there. I swear I must have put 45, 50 minutes of ring time in the other night. It's all good. I love it. It was a part of a long weekend, and I appreciate, by the way, those of you guys that came out for that, but I appreciate having Dan Wismar on a day like today to help pick up some of the slack as we get rolling. Dan will be with us, of course, from Everybody Hates Cleveland, as he is every Monday here on the Sports Fix. You guys joining us just, about 20 minutes from now, 25 minutes from now. Dan will get in on the conversation. We've got a lot to talk about since the last time he was here. Buckeyes, football, Browns, of course. I'm gonna get around to that eventually, but I am in no rush at all to talk about that. Yes, you know what? I'm one of those guys that says, hey, don't let the Browns ruin your Sunday and all of that, and easier for some people than others. I made the mistake of letting them. They didn't ruin my day yesterday. I knew that the Browns were not going to win that game a week ago. I knew the Browns were going to win that game a month ago, but that's not the point. And I'm not even saying that to sound sarcastic or whatever. Usually, I then go on to enjoy some other football throughout the day. I talk about watching the other games, and it reminds you sometimes that they're playing two different sports. But without the joking aspect of it, they took that away from me yesterday. I literally wasn't in the mood to watch any football, and that sucks because I love football. I just didn't care. It was a long weekend, and I sat through the majority of that thing yesterday and said, man, you know what? I don't even want to watch any more football. So thank God the Cavs get back in action tomorrow. But that's what they did, and that's rare because I don't usually allow that to happen. But it was just it wasn't just bad. It was boring. It was awful. It was just awful to watch. Mind-numbing, and it made me go, you know what? I'm good. I'm good with football. Probably missed some I know I did because when I went back through, couldn't sleep last night, ended up 4, 5, 6 o'clock this morning, started watching games from over the weekend and catching up on the stuff that I chose not to watch yesterday, and missed some stuff. But hey, it is what it is. And as we're back to it, lots of things to get into today with Dan. All of that. Buckeyes hoops back at it for the first time here. Vikings hoops getting it on the other day against Akron as well. We're going to talk Buckeyes with Dan Wismar. Tons of things to get into. I'm going to open up the phone lines. UFC, Ronda Rousey goes down for the first time. All of that, guys. I'm ready if you're ready. Lock it, load it. Let's do the Sports Fix thing. Welcome in across the Sports Fix radio network. You guys joining us live at noon. Whether you're listening live, whether you're listening on delay, I thank you for kicking off another week with us. I am your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc. Jerry Myers here with you guys doing the thing across the network. Maybe you're listening live. TuneIn's radio app worldwide, Spreaker, Mixler. I said it the other day. I'll remind you guys once again. The Spreaker has just revamped their podcast and digital app for the mobile app. It's called the Spreaker Podcast Radio app. If you look in your iTunes or Android, Amazon shop, the Google Play Store, search for the Spreaker Podcast Radio app, as they've now streamlined it, made it a heck of a lot better, just much more convenient. If you say the Sports Fix, you download the app, you let them know that that's one of the shows that you listen to, they tie you right in. It's almost a de facto mobile app for us, lets you know any new activity that comes from our account. Anytime we go live, it gives you a push notification right on your phone, says, hey, the Sports Fix is live, push here to listen now. Anytime we upload a recorded broadcast, anything like that, it gives you notification. So it's a cool way to stay in touch, and it's, as I said, kind of a de facto mobile app until we have one going, which is definitely a project for the future that I'd like to work on. So check that out if you get a chance, the Spreaker Podcast Radio app. If you get the chance. Charles, yes, the chat room still works. The Mixler is still set up. That will be changing after the first of the year, as I am going to eliminate Mixler. That's another decision I wanted to talk to you guys about. I will be eliminating that as we go forward. I'll revamp the website. We're going to put the TuneIn app. But then again, I'm working on some other things, getting back on the terrestrial radio dial here. There's going to be some more changes coming through after we get past the first of the year. So we're going to limp along here through the holiday season. Lots of changes coming, some for the better, some for even more better. As I said, getting back on terrestrial radio will be a good step in the positive direction, and that is coming just around the corner here, and getting back at the school. And I remind you guys, by the way, this week, final week that will be on Wednesday, as beginning next week, my modified teaching schedule kicks in, and the Sports Fix will, at least for the next 8 to 12 weeks, become a Monday, Friday proposition throughout the holidays into January of next year as my schedule changes. So just keep that in mind. A week from today, we'll still, of course, be on Mondays, but we will strictly be a Monday, Friday format beginning next week going forward. Anyways, back to the introductions. TuneIn radio app worldwide, Spreaker, Mixler. Download the Spreaker Podcast Radio app if you can, and make sure you add the Sports Fix to your favorites there. Welcome in those of you listening live on the home base, the sportsfix.net. That's what I was referring to, by the way, when I mentioned Mixler. The show that booms right off the website, it's still going to be there. We're just going to revamp the player that boosts it off of your site. But it is there for now, and there is a nifty little chat room tied in. So that's always your one-stop shop for all things you need. It's got the live broadcast right there. Make sure you bookmark it, thesportsfix.net. Welcome in as well. Everybody on digital delay around the world, thousands of you guys on sites like iHeartRadio, the world's largest internet radio provider, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, CarPlay, all of that. Thank you guys so much for doing the thing and getting your fix. Speaking of around the world, I've got some things I want to talk about before we even get to talking about footballs and touchdowns and lack thereof, if you're talking about the Browns and all of that stuff. But anyways, real quick, be a part of the show. Here's your chance now. Be the voice of the Sports Fix. You guys always such a great listening audience as far as interaction on the social media all the time. Every time I open Facebook, every time I open it, there's 40, 50, 60 notifications, 100. This morning, there were 94 notifications when I came on from yesterday. Comments, complaints, questions, all of that, you guys. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE. Email TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Facebook.com/TheSportsFix. Twitter @TheSportsFixCLE. Email TheSportsFix@AOL.com. Phones open 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535 is the number to call, and hit us up, you guys. As always, if you can't get through, if the lines aren't open, you can leave your take anytime, day or night, 24/7, on the Sports Fix hotline, 216-539-7535. As I was saying, before we even talk about anything else, this was a definitely an eye-opening weekend, hopefully for a lot of people out there, as far as the danger that we are continuing to face in this world. And I always say sports are the distraction from the reality of things, but man, they kind of collided together here this weekend. And of course, right off the top of my head, I mean, just stomach churning as we saw the events that were unfolding the other night in Paris, France, and the despicable, disgusting terrorist activities that went on. I mean, the story's still continuing to come out. I'm just harrowing. Absolutely. I mean, it's stomach turning. I was ill to my stomach as I was watching the live display and description of things that were coming out of Paris as that whole horrific night unfolded the other night. And of course, our prayers and thoughts to anybody and everybody involved in any way attached to any. I mean, there's still the death toll continues to rise, still hundreds injured, still so much going on. And yeah, Bruce, I was getting there. Hey, how about this morning? The message that our shores are most definitely in the sights of this. And that's something that I wanted to talk about before we even get around to talk about that mess that happened yesterday with the Browns or any of that stuff. Is you look at something so serious here, and you see as well the attempt to go after a stadium and a president in a stadium in the manner that it nearly happened the other day. I mean, there's your tie into the sporting world. I mean, it hit. This was a choreographed maneuver that was very, very strategically done, and done with a small amount of people. This wasn't load up a huge troop. This wasn't get a giant battle plan together. This was a large body count run up by an incredibly small and efficient group of people. That's the scarier part, is that they have really become scientific at the way of doing this with small numbers of people and being able to take out large groups, and would have been much larger had they not been able to stop the guy with the vest from getting into the stadium with the French president in it. And as you think about that, and you look at the attempt to use sports and entertainment, as you had the rock and roll concert, all of that, different, I mean, the restaurants, bars, stadium. I mean, there was so much. It was a giant swath right across culture and all the different places and different groupings of people there. And I'm thinking, and of course this morning, Bruce in the chat room mentioned when ISIS, the nasty, most foul, I'll tell you what, that's Al-Qaeda on steroids and then some. That is just a nasty, foul group. We've talked about it here before, continuing to grow in such small numbers into such a powerful thing. I think that's what shocked everybody the other day, was that they were able to execute something such a big scale. When everybody thinks that there's this small rogue group of people, you know, in the deserts here making videos, when there's a whole hell of a lot more to them than that this is highly funded, and look at they spend millions of the technology, the videos that they produce. They're Hollywood quality production. I mean, these people are well funded and infiltrating everybody. But that's breaking into the politics of things. Speaking of politics, I sure wish that our leader, our voice of politics, will for once shake this. And he's already done it all weekend. Refused immediately to even, we're not going to point fingers. 3 hours later, ISIS said, hey, point fingers. We'll point them for you. We're the ones that did it. This morning, still hesitant. I'm not saying throw the United States into this giant ground war. I'm saying this is enough is enough. France, what did it take them? 12 hours to go over there and start blowing things up, strategic targets. Same thing with these other countries. Get it together. Get over there and take care of this, because this is a problem that's coming to these shores. And that was kind of where I wanted to go real quick. And I know I'm off into all kinds of different stuff here than what we usually do. But when you're talking about, look at the season we're hitting. Black Friday is a week from this Friday coming up. Thousands of people congregate into large areas all over this country. I was reading some of the different things that came out over the weekend during all this, and some of the intelligence information that has already come out of infiltrated conversations have mentioned places like specifically the Mall of America, the largest mall going here, and that's one of the things here. That's something. Think about it. But you look at the attempt to get into a stadium. I mean, you're getting ready to hit a season here where you got the bowl games coming up for an entire month. You got the big, giant groupings of people that are giant statement-making things. And we can talk about how we've got security, and we do. And obviously they caught that guy outside the gates before he was able to get inside that soccer stadium and cause maximum damage. But the ability is real. And with the multitude of events that we have, I mean, I'm not saying, hey, let's throw America into a panic here. I'm not trying to do some War of the Worlds stuff here, but there's a large number of events. This is going to take a lot of strategic planning by the United States to protect us. And I just think of the season that we're in now to protect the citizens of this country, because you've got tons, as I mentioned, you've got bowl games coming up. You've got all kinds of things coming. Your NFL is going to be hitting playoff season here down the stretch. I mean, obviously, you look just a few months down the road, you've got a giant event like the Super Bowl coming up. You've got all kinds of things. Hey, here in Cleveland, I was talking to some guys about this yesterday. And again, I'm just having a conversation. I'm not trying to throw fear and panic into people. But we wouldn't be used to this with teams like the way the Browns have been and things like that. And the fact that the Indians don't have any big name stars. But the Cavaliers have one of the most prominent athletes in the entire world, not basketball-wise, famous-wise. LeBron James is one of the premier brands in the world. So again, if I was looking to make the biggest target in the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time, Christmas Day is the big revered holiday. Obviously, that's a benchmark of the United States, and you got LeBron James front and center, the Warriors. What I'm saying is you've got lots of premier events, lots of premier things coming up in the next 30, 45, 60 days coming down the pike. And then you hear things like this morning, the fact that the ISIS put out the new video that said what we did in Paris is coming. It's coming to the United States. It's coming to Washington, D.C., to the capital of the United States. And, I mean, clearly these people aren't making empty and I hate to even use the word people, because these are freaking savages. These are animals. These are subhumans, the things that they do, the atrocities that they do. And that's why, to me, this is a no-brainer. Every smart, safe, humanized, organized country in the world get together and flush these bastards out, man, and finish this thing off, because it is only – and you'll never squash the ideology, which means it'll always come back. You're going to have an even more hateful group that comes up underneath these guys, because a lot of this ideology was pushed forward from the Middle Eastern wars of the last 20 years, and that hateful group of young men that came up, even more spiteful than the ones before. And so you'll get that again, but it doesn't matter. This isn't about squashing the ideology. If you guys want to have a few hundred guys who believe what you believe and grow your little radical sect again, start them from scratch. They'll rebuild it from scratch. That's fine. You can't stop the ideology, but you can stop the actual people executing it, and it needs to be done, because the fact that, think about it. I mean, you look at the fact that this goes down. Look at our country. And I know Paris has different security measures than the United States, but that is also a major metropolitan capital, a worldwide capital city. You know what I mean? So it's not exactly like we're talking about a backwoods town here. That's a very also forwardly progressive, as far as all of those things. And you look at the fact that even with the terror alerts on high, even with everything on, these things could happen. Same thing here, even with all the safety precautions. Look at people like you and me. We've got to spend 6 hours to get on an airplane, take off every bit of clothing we've got, throw 16 pieces of identification out on the counter to prove who we are, all these things to get through, and yet somehow that stuff can still happen. Somehow they can block off the borders of the entire country, good point in the chat room there, Bruce, and somehow allow the main mastermind of this thing to slip through the border and then go, oh, damn, I think we were supposed to stop that guy. So no matter how prepared you are, these these things can happen. So don't sit there and go, hey, well, we've got it, because that's what they depend on, is that attitude. But I think it's funny, the average Joe and Jane like you and I, and I'm with it. I would rather take 6 hours to get onto a plane and know that I'm safely going to get where I need to go and protected and all of that stuff. But still, we have to go through all of that because of this, and it's just going to get worse. But this is all stuff that should be on the radar, because I'm looking at the season that we're getting ready to hit and the timing. And think of how crazy the streets are just here in Cleveland during the Christmas season, with everybody shopping and crossing and all over the place. It's nuts. The whole country's like that. When you have disorganization, that is when the situation is rife for something to happen, because you got that slight bit of distractions. And I'm scared to death that we are an open target, hitting an open season for something bad here. And it's definitely some scary stuff. And that was a big, long diatribe I didn't mean to go on, guys. But again, my prayers to the people in Paris, and I just hope that the civilized countries of the world unite and they go to work. I mean, you saw the video, it's already coming out. France went and bombed 20 different locations in the pseudo capital that they've kind of absconded there, the main ISIS grouping, and I hope that continues, and it has to, because otherwise it will get, like, these don't get lesser. They don't go out and make paper cuts. These guys are going for major arteries in one stroke. And trust me, what they did here will look like nothing compared to what they do next, as they've already threatened to do. And it's some scary stuff. And this is a time of year where the UFC the other night, I'll tell you what, I thought that there may have been some worries. I was worried that may have been a target, because it was such a big event and they were expecting tens of thousands of people for the huge event, and Ronda Rousey, such a big name. That was something. Even UFC had to really triple down on their security efforts for that one, because they were worried about much of the same thing. But anyways, again, not trying to cause people to run around and say, oh, the sky has fallen, but this stuff is real. It's really real, and it's in our laps, and we just saw a huge example of it here this weekend. And again, those stories coming out, the things you hear, just freaking harrowing, and nobody should ever have to go through some things like that. And these are some nasty people, and you got to get nasty with them and take them out. So anyways, guys, I'm sorry for that. Well, let's talk a little sports. Let's talk about the UFC real quick. Ronda Rousey the other night, first loss of her career. Of course, Ronda Rousey last few weeks has been everywhere. She was just put on the front of the video game that's coming out. She was on Jimmy Kimmel. She was everywhere. And what's funny is, if you watch the clip from her on Jimmy Kimmel, she described exactly how she was going to lose her first fight. She knew it. What she described on how she would beat, like, she was asked how she would beat Ronda Rousey. And what she described was exactly what Holly Holm went out there and did. Holly Holm was an unheralded, as far as name value, fighter, but her boxing style, I was talking over the weekend, Jessica, and she watched the fight the other night. I was out of town, but talking after the thing to some friends about that, and I'm like, that was the opportunity, because you knew that style of fighter, the hard hitter, the boxer, the ability to get the kicks in, that was going to run that kickboxing style, was going to give Ronda Rousey fits. And that was the type of fighter. It wasn't Jessica. It turned out to be somebody else. But I said, man, that window was wide open. I didn't see it coming. I'm not going to be one of those guys. I did think that it was coming soon. Somebody, because Ronda was all over, and I don't want to say she was too big for her britches, because she was riding the wave, but that's usually when it happens. When you start riding the wave, when you're spreading yourself thin, you eventually spread your training thin. I've watched it happen to people. I've watched it happen to friends of mine as they have went from lower level MMA to big level MMA to signing with UFC, and then all of a sudden they got big distractions, and everybody wants a piece of their time, and it's an hour here, an hour there, a friend here and a friend there. All of a sudden you missed 3 days in this training camp, you missed 4 days in this one, and that doesn't seem like a lot, but when the other fighter doesn't miss any, you do. But anyways, so I was thinking that really Ronda was starting to stretch herself thin, but I did not think she was going to lose the other night. I thought she was going to continue to roll, because it's what she's done. Even when people thought she was going to get it and people hated on her and said she's going down, 30 seconds, she'd hit the arm bar and be out of there. But that wasn't happening the other night. You knew it was over for Ronda if you saw the fight. when you and if you didn't see the fight, you could have saved $60 because the clips are on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere now, and the fight didn't last that long, so you can see most of it going around now. But when Ronda missed the big roundhouse and literally missed, I mean, took a swing, home ducked, and Ronda just hit air and kept going. That's when you knew she was done. She had no shot. She was just swinging for the knockout at that point, and I saw my buddy Ray here just a minute ago talking about the fight. I agree with Ray Rowe here. Holly Holm made Ronda Rousey fight her fight, and that was the end of it. When you make somebody play your game, when you make somebody stop your, play your way, and you do that, you win. You win 9 times out of 10, and that's exactly what happened. And I'll tell you what, big rematch will be coming. I have no doubt. I don't think Holly Holm defends the title against anybody else, and I don't think Ronda Rousey has to get a rematch because there's never a guarantee when you try to get back to a rematch that you're going to get it. I think Dana White may have even said something over the weekend, but I have no doubt probably by UFC 200, these two are the main event, and they'll rematch it again, and you'll see if Holly Holm's the real deal or if Ronda Rousey could come back. Now, I'm going to be honest. Based on fight number 1, I don't think Ronda Rousey can change too much and come back at her, but she is better than she looked in that fight, and that's what I'm curious to see if she can. I mean, that's what the true champions do. Was she a one-hit wonder and then her time came and went? And if that's the case, if she gets wiped out in the rematch, that'll probably be one of her last UFC fights because she's going to sign a contract with WWE. That's where she wants to go, and that's what she wants to do when she's done with UFC anyway. So, and she'll make great money there. She'll be a big attraction. She'll be like the female Brock Lesnar. It'll be great. But I don't know that she can win a rematch, but I'll definitely watch it, and I definitely will be interested in checking that thing out. But yeah, down goes Rousey the other day at the big UFC event. I didn't even get to see, matter of fact, I didn't get to see anything Saturday. I didn't get to see that till after it was over. And same with the Cavs game. And I feel like I jinxed the Cavs the other night because I've watched every game this season and I had to wrestle. As I said, I had to wrestle 3 times the other night. So I kept trying to check in on my phone and watch a few minutes of the Cavs game from in the locker room. And the last I saw, right before I went to the ring the last time, Cavs were up 4, I think it was, with a couple minutes left in the fourth quarter. And next thing I know, I come back, I'm drying off and everything. I find out they're in double overtime. I finally got to a TV with 30 seconds left in double overtime, and the Cavs were down, 7? They hit the 3. They got it down to a 3-point game, and then nobody went after that rebound at the end, and that was just how it ended. But so I missed the whole thing. Apparently, there were some shady calls down the stretch that may have affected the Cavs. I saw the NBA said that of the 4 calls in the last 2 minutes, 3 of them were wrong and were against the Cavs. So maybe that's legitimate. I didn't see it, so I can't say that. Even if so, 8 out of 10. If you do that all season long, I'll take it, even though I expect it to get tougher once the level of competition gets up. And I'm going to talk about the Cavs behind the numbers a little bit later on in the show. But, yeah, I didn't see it, so I'm not going to sit out here and say whether it was or was not fair. But either way, double overtime Cavs did get that winning streak, snapped at 8, and LeBron had a few things. And I don't blame him because that's the way you should be, by the way, coming out of a winning streak like this, because it was a soft winning streak as far as strong because you win. The wins are the wins no matter what, but soft in the way you did it because they were flipping that switch. And LeBron had a hell of a point. He said, you're not always going to be – we're not that team yet. But I think he sees that they can be, and they can get to that point where they can flip the switch on and off. And I think that come next season, they will be that team. But this year, that's that next step that you take is learning that you have to keep the pedal to the metal for the entire stretch of the game. There is no switch on and off because someday you're going to go to flip it, and it's like when the light blows out at your house. You flip the switch, and you go, damn. I didn't know we needed a light bulb in this room, and then you're walking around in the dark fumbling, and the last thing we want to do is be in the dark fumbling around in June when it's NBA Finals time. So we'll talk some more Cavs here in just a minute, you guys, as we get rolling. We're already up until near the first break. I want to get Dan Wismar in on the conversation, and of course, we'll talk a little bit here about the Cleveland Browns, who walked through a debacle yesterday against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think it sums it all up when they took out the quarterback in the first series, and the injured Ben Roethlisberger, who was expected not to play in the game, comes in and slices up the Browns as soon as he comes in there, which is what he does because, as I've mentioned, him and Jimmy Haslam are the owners of the Browns because he owns a large share of the Cleveland Browns himself. But, I mean, it wasn't just that. I mean, that was just a disgusting game in all aspects of it. I'm not even just talking about the what they did from play to play. The 200 yards of penalties. There were multiple double penalty efforts on the same play. I think one of the ones that summed it up best was we were watching yesterday. Whatever, I don't even remember the quarter on this one. May have been the third quarter, but you'll know it as soon as I say it. Roethlisberger takes the snap. They're on the 10-yard line. How about the drive? This is the start of the drive that went 80 yards on all penalties, basically. I think 70 of the 80 yards were penalties. Roethlisberger takes the snap around the 15 or the 10-yard line or whatever. Offsides on the Browns right away. Roethlisberger, being a veteran quarterback, shakes off the flag and says, you know what? I'm gonna see what I can do with this free play. Locks on the man going down the field and chucks it down the field and says, the hell with your 5-yard penalty. I'm gonna get this 45-yard penalty down the field instead. Boom. Double penalty, holding, pass interference, move it down to the spot of the foul. So now we're all the way down to midfield. Very next play, here we go again, down to the left side of the field. Boom, flag, pass interference, 1st and 10 or whatever at the 11-yard line. And just like that, 2 flags ate it up down the field, and they ended up with, nearly 200 yards. So they've got as many penalty yards for the season as they do rushing yards for the season, which should tell you everything that you need to see. And that's disgusting effort. That has nothing to do with not being good enough. That has nothing to do with talent. That has nothing to do with any of that crap. That was just an effort of people that didn't want to be there and didn't give any mind whatsoever. They have found every way to go out here and commit one mistake after another. I mean, and I'm with you. I see Bruce, he just said the C word, coaching, over in the chat room. We're going to take a break, get the news, get Dan Wismar in on the conversation. And I kind of waited on purpose because I didn't want to have to talk about this by myself because I may need to find a dull razor and attempt to find out if I can reach the back of my medulla oblongata and forget about the game that I had to watch yesterday because it was despicable on all counts, the effort that people that are Browns fans or that are even not Browns fans had to watch. I don't know that anybody should have had to sit through that yesterday. And it was just a team running through the motions, absolutely. And this is a guy that tries to find the good in everything. There is no good. There's no good. Manziel's performance isn't even a bright spot that you can take out of it. I will take out the fact that he took what they gave him all day long, and they gave it to him all day long. But if you guys think that was some impressive performance by even the quarterback, you're wrong. That was the yards that you get in the middle of getting your ass kicked all over the place by a team that has zero respect for you whatsoever and isn't even the slightest bit worried about what you're going to do to them. So they're not worried about making a mistake. They're not worried about going for it on 4th down. They're not worried about any of that stuff, any of it. And you know what sums it up the best is the where Manziel almost gets sacked twice. Manziel almost gets sacked twice, takes off to the goal line, almost gets the touchdown, gets stopped a half an inch short, then it's holding, false start on the very next play, and they somehow turned 1st and goal at the half-yard line into whatever it was at about the 26-yard line, and I'm like, damn. Browns are looking to see if they can make it 1st and goal at midfield, I think, before they're done. And that just kind of summed it up. I saw something yesterday. It said, here's an analogy for being a Browns fan. It's a fall afternoon and your house is full of leaves, so you're going to go out and clean. Here's the analogy for being a Browns fan. You go out to rake the leaves, but you can't find a rake, so you're stuck using a fork. And while you're out there raking the leaves with a fork, the police come by and they write you a ticket for using the wrong device to rake your leaves. You shrug your shoulders and you take your ticket, and then the second Then a second officer comes by and gives you a ticket because you've also raked those leaves into the neighbor's yard on accident. So as you're cleaning up the leaves that you raked there, a couple of them have now gone into the other neighbor's yard. And then another officer comes by, writes you a third ticket now for accidentally getting some leaves in the other yard. You apologize again. You sweep those with your little fork. And now you finally got all your leaves in a pile and you've been using your little fork. And here comes the wind and it blows all of your leaves all over the place again. And then, just as you sigh and shrug your shoulders and get ready to start again, you drop your fork, and when you bend down to pick it up, you fall off the curb and you get a concussion. That's the life of a Browns fan, my friends, and we're going to pick it up from there after the news when we come back. Dan Wismar is going to join us. We'll talk about the Browns and the Steelers, and this wasn't like no Browns and Steelers contest of my childhood. That's for damn sure, because I'll tell you what, Art Modell may be the devil to you, but he'd have fired every person in that locker room before they got to the plate if they'd have put out an effort like that back when I was growing up. We'll talk about it, though. Hey, I'm not all about throwing them out in the middle of the season anyway. They're all going to be gone in a couple of weeks, and that's fine. But we'll pick it up from there. A lot of you are mad. I've heard from you on social media. Wanted changes yesterday. Want people fired today. It is coming. It may still come this week, although Jimmy Haslam says no. Let's talk about that when we come back. Dan Wismar, from Everybody Hates Cleveland, joins us next. We're talking Browns. We'll talk Buckeyes. We'll talk Buckeyes hoops and football, Cavs, and so much more. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland next after the news, talking some Browns and so much more here on the Sports Fix.
You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of sound. A dimension of mind. You're moving into a land of both shadow and substance, of things and ideas. You've just crossed over into
The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
It's an addiction. The Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got. Because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor, because of this city, we owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together. 1, 2, 3. Hard work. 4, 5, 6. Together.
Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com. Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Signs and Ship, the official printing source of the Sports Fix. Locations in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and Florida. Find out more at signsandship.com.
News break.
Good morning, I'm Bob Picozzi. At age 39, it's tough enough to bounce back physically and be ready for the following Sunday in the NFL. In breaking news, Peyton Manning now has a new injury to deal with. NFL sources telling ESPN's Adam Schefter that the Broncos quarterback has a torn plantar fascia. Can he play with that injury? Dr. Mark Addix is ESPN's medical consultant.
Where it tears from generally is right off the heel, so it hurts right under the foot, but you cannot push off. Most people can't walk without a limp. If it's completely torn, it's all about the pain.
Manning completed only 5 of 20 passes and threw 4 interceptions before he was removed from yesterday's loss to Kansas City. The Bengals can set a new franchise record for most consecutive wins tonight with the victory at home against Houston in Monday Night Football, 8:30 Eastern Time on ESPN. Cincinnati has won its last 8 and is 8-0 this season. 3 of the top 6 ranked college basketball teams are from the ACC, including number 6 Virginia. Cavaliers visit George Washington tonight, 7:30 Eastern Time on ESPN2, part of ESPN's annual College Hoops Tip-Off Marathon. Cubs third baseman Chris Bryant, Matt Duffy of the Giants, Jung Ho Kang of the Pirates. 3 finalists for the National League Rookie of the Year winner announced tonight.
Get to Subway to enjoy 2 all-time favorite subs with tender all-white meat chicken, the better-for-you sweet onion chicken teriyaki, and the delicious chicken and bacon ranch melt. Both made the way you say with your favorite crisp veggies, all on freshly baked bread. Subway, eat fresh.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Into the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you. Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland joining me on the hotline in just a moment. You guys can keep it rolling with us. Facebook, Twitter, easiest way to do it. Email, facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Twitter, @The Sports Fix, CLE, all one word. Email, The Sports Fix @AOL.com. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix, or just search The Sports Fix on Facebook. There's more than one of us, but we're the only ones that count. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix. Twitter @The Sports Fix, CLE, all one word. Email, The Sports Fix @AOL.com. We're going to get back into it now. Get Dan in on the conversation with us and pick up where we left off, which sadly was with the Browns, because I did do a good job of waiting, but unfortunately I had to get to them eventually here. We're going to talk about all of that. I want to get some Buckeyes in as the hoops season. College hoops has begun now this weekend. Bucks and the Vikings got it going. A lot to cover here. A lot to do. Let's do it. Dan Wismar, my man from Everybody Hates Cleveland. Dan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good, Jerry, for a Monday. We always make that a relative kind of a statement, depending on how we feel about how things are going. I appreciate, first of all, your sort of lending some perspective to the whole sports thing right off the top.
Man.
Normally when I come into the office, the other folks in here want to talk about the sports things. And this morning, everybody, we came in and they just sort of shrugged the shoulders and, what do you think, Dan? And I said, well, what I think is, hug the people you love today, man, because it's a crazy world we live in. So anyway, without going into that in a lot of detail, just remember that sports is sports and life is life. And, while we're worrying about the Cleveland Browns, people are getting blown up and having their throats slit and being persecuted and murdered and slaughtered all over the world. And sports is just that. It's a diversion for us and a distraction for us, but some perspective is always necessary. So thanks for that.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, man. I mean, I'm with you too, because you just hit it right on the head, man. Even the terms that we use. Do you know how many times in the last, let alone in the last few months, you and I have heard, but do you know in the last 48 hours how many times the phrase "blow it up" has been said, blow the whole thing up? And it's a cliche to sports talk until you realize that real things and real people got blown up the other day, and it happens, and it's happening more, and it's, and again, I wasn't also trying to do red alert, hey, be scared of everything, but man, I really do look at the season that we're in now. I don't think there's a time in America where there's more high-profile, large grouping sporting events than the months of November through the early part of February.
Right. Well, ever since 9/11, and I've been going to Browns games ever since 9/11, and Indians games too. Indian security is one thing. The Browns game security is a whole different, heightened level. Where basically you're for, and especially when you get into winter with winter coats and heavy garb, open it up, take the hat off, pat you down, frisk you down, scan you with a metal detector, do the whole thing, and it's maddening. But frankly, we've all come to expect it and accept it, I think, rather graciously since 9/11. I read on Sunday morning that NFL stadiums were increasing or adding to or in some way supplementing their security measures on this Sunday. And I said to my wife, I'm glad we're not going to a home game today because, how could it be elevated much more than it's already elevated, for one thing? And I didn't know what that might entail. Yeah, certainly people are worried, and certainly people are worried here in America, not just in Europe, about, because they've told us flat out, we're coming there next. Here's the cities we're coming to next: Rome, Frankfurt, Washington. And they mean what they say. So vigilance is obviously necessary. And now that they've done, like you pointed out, they are not hitting military installations. They don't want terror. Is about frightening everyday people in their everyday places, in their gathering places, in their marketplaces, their stadia, and elsewhere where they gather for entertainment and diversion and fun. Because fun isn't part of their program. No. So yeah, certainly you hold your breath and you hope that with bowl games and NFL games and playoff games and everything else that now that we know that this is a tactic. And it's more than an idle threat. It's chilling, you can't be too careful. And if you see something, say something, and all those cliches come into play. But vigilance and caution are the order of the day.
The one good thing, I guess, if you're looking for something good that came out of the situation the other day, is the fact that they couldn't get into the stadium. I mean, there was obviously an inability to get past the security checkpoints there, which that at least lets you go, hey, especially because, I don't know how much different it may be in that stadium than it was in stadiums here in the U.S., but that's at least a hey, because it's much more frightful when it gets past security. We're not talking about, hey, gunmen overtook the concert hall. That's a siege. That's different. But had they been able to infiltrate the security of the stadium, then that really would have scared the hell out of me. But the fact that they couldn't get through, that at least says, hey, the fact that we got to wait 6 hours to get on a plane, the fact that, like you said, you've got to go through everything to get in, it sucks. But it's necessary, unfortunately, because it's the only way you catch the guy going into the stadium.
Yeah, that's true. And the sad part of that reality is that instead of, multiple innocent citizens being blown up, 4 cops died.
Right. Absolutely.
Outside that stadium. And those are the people, when you think of it that way, those 4 cops were innocent civilians too. They had done no wrong, and yet they died protecting other people. So yeah, it's heartbreaking. And what I don't like is people calling it a tragedy. It's not a tragedy. It's an atrocity.
Yes.
Yes. Even a crime is giving it too much credit. Because this is beyond criminality.
No, I agree with you 100%, man. Absolutely, Dan. And it definitely, I mean, I didn't even know, to be honest, I didn't even know. I mean, look, like I said, I wasn't all sportsy this weekend to begin with, sat through the Brown. I'm like, man, how do I come on the air and start going, yeah, Johnny Manziel and Mike Pettit, man, there's real stuff going on, way more important than any of this. More important than if the New York Giants blew it at the end of their game. You know what I mean? Who cares, man? Like, and
yeah, it is days like that that really do put sports in perspective. But like you say, we can no longer separate sports and our sports venues from this issue because they're at risk. And anywhere large numbers of people gather, we have to be vigilant about it.
I mean, I think about literally a week from Thursday. You have large groups of people meeting together at stadiums for football events, Thanksgiving. I mean, you know, even though it's 50 years at 40, how old is that movie? What is it? Black Sunday? The one from the 70s?
I remember the movie because it was about a Super Bowl and the
right.
Steelers, if I'm not mistaken, were in the Super Bowl and I remember the black uniforms of the Steelers, if I recall. Yeah, about what, a blimp or something, was it?
Yeah, and doing it that way. But now we live in a world where it's real.
And, you know, in the last 15 years, I can't tell you the number of times I've sat at Cleveland Browns Stadium and thought, wow, you know, someone would get a hold of an airplane or you know, some other kind of a, you know, flying device that it's like a magnet, you know, an NFL stadium full of Americans.
You know,
is
talking
sort
about
of a
that,
sitting duck.
What you said just gave me you know, there was some really graphic pictures that came out from over the weekend. I mean, really graphic. But I think one of the scenes that got me the most was not graphic at all. It was the clip of the guys playing soccer in the stadium. And it's just a regular game going on. And then you just hear the two gigantic explosions and the guys like kind of stop kicking the ball and everybody's like, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden in that moment, it became really, really like real and terrifying and what the hell's going on? And I'm like, that silence kind of spoke volumes there itself too, you know, just, I don't know, just seeing the clips of that there. It was, it shuddered, man, whatever.
Yeah, I was transfixed by that coverage Friday night and ended up sitting there watching it for hours, and it takes you back to 9/11. But
right,
yeah, it is different because the tactics are different. It's not a spectacular thing, and it's nothing that you know. I don't know if you ever read Mark Stein, but you know, the old cliche is the barbarians are at the gates. Well. You know, his statement was the barbarians are inside the gates. There are no gates. You know, they're here. They're in Europe. They're in America. They've been to Syria and back, and they've been trained and they've been instructed and given instructions on how to you know, murder as many people as possible, basically, in any way possible, calling on their followers to rise up and just start murdering people. So it is really, it's a whole different world. It's a whole different kind of threat, and we're going to have to deal with it.
And the numbers is what scares me the most. If you start with 9/11 and go to today and just take all the major terror attacks, the Paris 9/11, the planes that went down, you've probably got tens of thousands of people dead and less than 100 total people responsible for it physically on the ground. You know what I mean? That's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. And as often pointed out, it only took 19 hijackers to take down the World Trade Center.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And that's why I say the fact the threat over it is why you have to go eliminate as much of this as you can as soon as possible, because otherwise you spend every day wondering what's coming, what's happening, what hammer's coming down next. The hell with that. That is not how we do things here in America. I don't know about anywhere else, but we need to get out here and everybody just, I mean, I know it's easier said than done, but again, we're talking about small numbers of people. You flush them out, you ring them out. The next group may hate you even more, but it'll be 20 or 30 years before they get strong enough to do something again.
That's true. And if I can just inject one more note into it, and then we can go talk sports. You know, we have said, and our president has said many times over the past, let's say mostly in the last year and a half, when you know, his pullout from Iraq allowed ISIS to be created. that we have a plan, we have a strategy to degrade and ultimately destroy, in his words, ISIS. Yeah. And then yesterday we find out that that France went into Raqqa, the headquarters of ISIS, and bombed several strategic sites of training, ammunition dumps, training centers, headquarters, all these targets in Raqqa that are known ISIS strongholds and centers and headquarters. And I guess the question has to be asked here, if we were able to find those, and France was able to find those, presumably with our support and help, why haven't they been hit before by us, if we are supposedly have a strategy and a plan to degrade and destroy ISIS? So I think it's a legitimate question that, the president was embarrassed by the fact that the day before these attacks, he had been quoted as saying in public that ISIS was contained. Certainly that's embarrassing for him, but it should also raise a lot of other questions. What is our strategy? What has been our strategy? Why haven't we acted previously to this? If these sites and these targets are out there and they're known and they're vulnerable to rocket attacks. So anyway, just thought I'd mention that, and if it exposes my political leanings, well, so be it.
Hey, I'm with you. That to me is going to stand when you say the things that are held against you. We say what's going to be held against Ray Farmer. There's one to the list. The day before an incredibly brutal terror attack, you said, hey, by the way, we're making good ground. We got these son of a guns contained. We got them. We got this. We got this. Yeah, you got this all right, man. You didn't have anything. And that really did. That speaks volumes there. Guys, sorry for not talking sport. I mean, I guess if you want, we could have rushed into talking about the Browns and the Steelers, but I think either way, I think we're going to get to the same place here eventually, guys. Welcome into the Sports Fix. It is the Sports Fix. We're going to talk some sports. J-Rocc, Dan Wismar, as we cross over here towards the top of the hour. Let's talk a little bit about the Browns here. Yesterday, we'll start there, and then we'll move into some greener pastures from there. But yesterday, look, man, to me, ugly. Just, I mean, we've talked about good, bad in these losses throughout the season as they're now 2-8, and this has now run, 13 of 15 or whatever since the 7-4 mark of last season, and it just gets worse and worse. Yesterday, though, to me, just the first time that I've truly felt that they gave up. And I don't mean gave up halfway through the game. I mean gave up last week and showed up this week in body only. And I mean from the coaching staff down. There were times, and I'll give Mike Pettin the benefit of the doubt of saying that he keeps an even keel during the game. There were times that even when the Browns did something that was halfway decent, he looked pissed off about it, let alone he had this look on his face throughout the game that was indifferent to me. And how do you commit 200 yards of penalties? It was the second most penalized game in the history of the Cleveland Browns franchise for one game. They've now been penalized as much on the season as they've gotten rushing yards on the freaking season. But that stuff, there were two. I got to be honest. I can't count in my head for the last 10 years the number of times that they commit multiple penalties, like where you remember, boy, they committed 2 fouls on the same play. It doesn't happen that much in football in general. These guys found ways to do it multiple times yesterday alone to where you're going, damn, man. And that is what has me to the black. I told you at the beginning of the show, it made me not want to watch any football. When the game was over, I got a nap because I got beat up Saturday night. I was tired. I said, you know what? I don't care about football after watching this, because it was just that painful to watch, because that was the first time I felt that they didn't give a crap what they were doing out there on the field.
Well, Jerry, you saw my tweet yesterday afternoon. I know that. And that wasn't. I'll just say it again. I was at a party with some other people, 25 people or so, at a party which is a sort of a regular event every year at one friend's house for the Browns at Steelers game. I was embarrassed to admit to the people there that I was a season ticket holder. Most of the people know me and know that I am a season ticket holder. So they always get called, hey, Dan, what's the matter with your Browns? They're always my Browns when they suck,
Yeah, exactly.
Does that. We've talked about that before, but it was embarrassing, certainly. And I was trying to count last night the number of times that I had this despairing feeling that we truly have bottomed out. this is maybe the fourth or fifth time in the 17 years of New Browns football that I really felt that that the floor was falling out from under us as fans. I mean, in terms of just despairing of any optimism about the direction or the franchise. And I said as much to you last week that and I'm, like you say, you try to choose your words carefully and don't say blow it up, but I'm ready to blow it up. I thought last night, after the way the defensive backfield played, and understand, I know that we're playing a backup safety, Jonathan Batamosi, at corner. On
Antonio Brown,
a green rookie low round draft choice, Charles Gaines at corner, and we're playing guys that are out of position. I thought going into the season, frankly, that cornerback with Williams and Hayden and Gilbert and Gaines and Desir, the cornerback was going to be one of the strongest positions on the team.
Yeah,
I thought that the defensive backs coach, whoever that person might be, should have been fired before dinner last night after the way that his charges played, hanging on people, grabbing people, holding people, 141 yards in pass interference penalties alone out of your 180-some yards total in penalties. Absurd, ridiculous, embarrassing. There's no shortage of negative adjectives to describe it, what we were forced to watch. I thought that maybe that Jim O'Neill would be offered up as a sacrificial lamb after the game. Certainly he deserves to be fired, but Jim O'Neill is Mike Pettin. It's almost like you're firing somebody for no apparent reason and really purely as a symbolic measure because he is the Mike Pettin disciple. The defense is not O'Neill's, it's Pettin's. So it would be kind of pointless to fire the defensive coordinator when the head coach is the defensive coordinator. So, but bottom line, embarrassment. I see Bruce's question in the chat room, and I try, frankly, Jared, to not blame Jimmy Haslam for all 17 years of sucking. He's only responsible for the last couple, and he inherited a disaster. He went ahead and fired the two numbskulls that he inherited in Banner and Lombardi, because they clearly were just at odds with each other, feuding, and I have no problem with Haslam deciding to pull the rug out from under those two nitwits. And then it really being forced to hire people who would say yes to his offer of general manager and head coach after that. So I'm going to give Jimmy Haslam a little bit of, some slack here, because it's clear with his silence that he intends to clean house when the season's over. At least it's my fond hope that he will. Because there's really nothing to salvage here in terms of the management of the organization. He is the owner. We're stuck with him, and I'd rather have an owner with a whole bunch of money and a guy with at least some pride. I said last week, Jerry, I thought that his fondest wish is to be respected by his fellow owners, and it really puts him in a bad position now. Because what everyone tells him is that you got to have continuity. You can't be firing your coach and general manager every time you change your underwear. And yet, that's exactly what's called for right now. And so he really is behind the eight ball. I said it last week. I said it before the Plain Dealer columnist wrote a column about it. It really puts him in a bad spot because what will gain the respect of his fellow owners is getting some stability and some continuity in the organization and the front office, and yet he's got a disaster of a front office.
I agree, and I've got an idea for that. I want to get to those things in a minute, but I want to back up kind of at the beginning of what you said. The fact that, talking about those defensive backs, and I understand being shorthanded, but the fact that you've, got Johnson Batamosi covering one of the most dynamic wide receivers in football, coming off of a 300-yard game. And you got Antonio Brown getting I would have put, even of the available personnel, I do believe that Johnson Batamosi may have been my last choice to cover Antonio Brown. There are more receivers than one. I can move those guys around. You can't even activate Justin Gilbert for the game. And you've got Johnson Batamosi covering one of the premier wide receivers in the game, he was making Batamosi look foolish. It was a man against a boy on a couple of those passes, and all I needed to see, I was in a room with a bunch of guys, and I opened up my Twitter app right after the one touchdown where he just smoked him, and I didn't even have to scroll. It was just the top of my Twitter feed, the first 5 tweets that fit on my screen. Literally all 5 of them from different national people said some variation of, the Browns have a guy named Batamosi covering Antonio Brown. Genius idea. Or the Browns just covered Antonio Brown with some guy I've never heard of before. It was literally 5 of them, all different people saying the same thing at the same time because it was that obvious to the world. Yet that was the choice that we went with the personnel that we have. That's where I
Jerry,
question
did they
coaching.
mention or did they even know? Probably didn't. That the kid is a safety.
I know. Oh, no. People know that. I'm not blaming Batamosi.
It's ridiculous.
No,
Jerry,
he should not.
I said last week that every single Sunday, 2 huge conspicuous Ray Farmer embarrassments hit the fans and the national media in the face. One is, of course, the $9 million Dwayne Bowe flop. The second is the 7th pick in the draft Justin Gilbert flop. After yesterday, it's arguable that we can now add Cameron Irving to the list.
Oh, I'm going to get there. He got pushed all around.
That was an unbelievable game. Poor Joel Bitonio, I don't know what the nature of his injury is. I didn't hear that. But, he was out for the game, and Cameron Irving playing left guard was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, he got shoved.
There's a gif of him, getting put on his ass, pushed over backwards, and what they're calling the worst block in NFL history.
Is that the one with Hayward? Is that one?
Yeah, he gets the crucial holding penalty on 1st and goal from the 1-foot line that sets you back, and he just had a miserable day overall. This is your other first-round draft choice.
Yes.
Besides Danny Shelton, who was pretty much invisible until the 4th quarter. He was barely on the field and not making any kind of an impact. So, it's a disaster. Ray Farmer's regime has been a disaster in many, many ways, and it just, I'm bottomed out. I'm embarrassed. I'm ready to blow it up. If it happened, this morning, it would be too late for me.
No, and you know what? That's what I mean. There's a point where you go, this stinks but can get better. There's times when you look for the good and the bad, and there's times like yesterday, and I think I'm with you, where you hit that point where you go, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that they can be any more pathetic than they are right now. And it's just, I mean, we talked about the Bernie Kosar, that's fun conversation to have last week. But in all reality, to me, I'm of the opinion that the Browns need to make changes, but I don't think Jimmy Haslam is the person to make those. I honestly believe. I saw Coach Sam was saying some stuff about a guy like Bill Polian. I don't care who the guy is. I'm not arguing I like this guy or that guy. But that's what comes next. And what's funny is you're about to go back to the system, I think, that you kicked to the curb a few years ago because it was too convoluted, but I don't think it was. I believe that having the football guy underneath Jimmy Haslam, and I know some people say that's a convoluted system, and now everybody just reports. Nobody's reporting to a freaking football guy. There needs to be the football guy. He's in charge, and it's not Alex Shiner. And a matter of fact, was it Pluto? Somebody I was reading this morning had a good line that said, and he needs to be strong enough to tell the business side, hey, you go print your jerseys and make your bobblehead dolls, and I'll handle my football side. And then that's how we work together on this, because there's way too much of the marketing department. That's how the whole last season, we all know the debacle that the Browns delved into because of marketing and jerseys and stuff. But they need a football guy first, and then you give it to him and say, hey, look, you want to keep him, you keep him. You want to dump him, you dump him. Look at this freaking thing and do whatever needs to be done to fix it. And then it's the same thing. They're getting fired anyway, but don't let Jimmy look like he just got hot-headed and fired everybody and doesn't know what he's doing. Put a football guy in charge and let him go out there and do whatever. If he thinks Pettin should stay, fine. There's no way that happens. But if he does, fine. If he thinks Ray Farmer should go, shoot them all and get rid of them all. But anyway, I'm just kidding. But
you're right, of course. And we've talked on and on about how they need to do it right this time and not bring in a general
Which
manager
system works, though,
and
to
tell
you,
him
Dan?
tell him who his coach is going to be.
What system works better? The one they had
They
before?
did it backwards last time. And like you say, it doesn't matter
What do you
who
like?
well, obviously it matters who it is, but there are names out there of people that if you give them, $5 million or whatever a NFL general manager makes these days, and let him deal with Alex Scheiner, first of all. And I've heard the same things you've heard, that Alex Scheiner is sticking his nose in player personnel matters where he has absolutely no business being. And that has to stop. I mean, they allowed this Banner Lombardi thing, these two guys feuding against each other with their own little personal fiefdoms that they're trying to compete against each other for favor with the owner. Haslam finally said, "To hell with both of you guys, get out of here." And I applauded that move. So I believe that, Haslam wants to bring in a big name. And I think that if he gives that person total control over the football operation, that he can find somebody. And I don't know whether that's Bill Polian or Tony Dungy or John Gruden or Bill Cowher or who it is, but you have to start somewhere with a football guy, and it ain't Alex Scheiner, and Alex Scheiner needs to be put back in his place and sell tickets and design new uniforms and deal with promotions on game day and fan experience and all that other bull crap. Let somebody that knows something about football come in here and pick the players and pick the coach and run the team on the football field. So, sooner the better. I do believe Haslam understands that, and I do believe that he will do that. I'm giving him credit for that. The people of the city got down on him right away, and not for, all the wrong reasons. His company was found out to have been screwing over truck drivers. That gave people the bad impression of him right from the start. He hasn't, in my opinion, been given a fair shot, a fair break by the fans of Cleveland who want to blame 17 years of bad football on the guy who's owned the team for 3 years. So I'm ready to see what he's willing to do now to clean house and bring in a football guy and then do what he's done for the most of this season, that's stay the hell out of the spotlight.
Now, I got to be honest. When people said, hey, they wanted to, heads to roll right after the game, I thought about this a lot last night because I didn't want to it's easy in the heat of it to go fire everybody right now. I don't want Mike Pettin fired until the end of the season because any tangible value in the last 6 games, as far as just even evaluating the players you got, it's nil if we've got an interim head coach. Not that Pettin may be even that much better, but it's still the same system that's been running since training camp. It's at least a minimal interruption to your season to at least evaluate the best you can. Look, this isn't going to be an ideal situation for the last 6 games no matter what. But I think you dump the head coach now and you really eliminate any value to, and I mean evaluational value, to the last 6 games. Now, that being said, I would have fired Ray Farmer yesterday. I would still think about doing it today because to me, if you make an example of somebody got to go, because then maybe at least for the last 6 weeks, you don't get what you said yesterday, which is playing out the string. You at least get some guys playing for future or some coaches playing to stick around, or I think then maybe you get the optimal whatever you can get out of it, because that's an example I'd have made. You don't have no more trades. Trade deadlines passed. You don't have any real general manager functions that can't be picked up by whoever his assistant is for the rest of the season. So I think you could fire him now and not hurt your team for the next 6 weeks and make a little bit of a point. But I don't think you could fire the coach now without really making it hard to even for Manziel, even if you want to see what he's got. I think once you get into interim head coach territory, man, you think the offense and stuff looks bad now. It could get even worse when it's all disorganized.
Well, you're right, and you make some good points about retaining the coach till the end of the season, and I'd be all right with that. And like you say, the trade deadline is passed, but that doesn't mean that Ray Farmer could not make moves relating to the roster and personnel.
True.
An area where he's already proven his incompetence, and therefore you wouldn't want him to have his hands on it. The other thing is, if you fire him, who gets the power to do those things? Is it Mike Pettin? Is it some assistant general manager that hardly anyone can name?
It's whoever.
Or is it Alex Scheiner, God forbid?
I would assume.
So I guess it would depend on into whose hands do those responsibilities fall for the last 7 weeks.
But
the other
doesn't
thing
matter.
I thought I'd point out, the other thing I thought I'd mention, Jerry, is that this thing unraveled in a big hurry. This team, didn't start out the season terribly. This season, even in the games that they've lost, and I'm thinking in terms of the San Diego game, they were very competitive in, and
Denver.
should have been in overtime with the Denver game, which they lost on a last-second field goal. It really has been, the first half of the Cardinals game, and you saw how good a team that was yesterday. That they were up 20-10 over at halftime.
Seattle.
It really did unravel in a hurry with Bengals and Steelers here in the last couple of weeks, and again throw in the second half of the Cardinal game. So it's not as though the team has been uncompetitive and quit. Early on in the season, the quitting, and I think there's no other description for yesterday other than the team quitting.
Has to be.
Watching Pierre Desir watch Martavis Bryant run right by him.
Come on.
Not even working hard to catch up to him while the ball's in the air, and he knows it's over and it's a touchdown. That was dispiriting to me. That was just, that was quitting.
I agree.
That's just, there's no other explanation for it. So, I don't know. I'm at my wit's end with it. I told the people yesterday, as everyone is sitting around at this party, holding their heads, going, man, and just woe is me, And I said to them, hey, think about how you feel about the Cleveland Browns right now, and then think how you'd feel if you sent them a check for season tickets every year for the last 17 years. And that's not to just, say anything about me necessarily, other than, as Bruce tells me, every day indirectly, I'm an idiot, I'm a moron for being a season ticket holder of this team. I woke up this morning thinking Bruce is right, man. I am. That's just the way it is.
No,
there's no getting around it this morning.
I know. I was watching the game with yesterday. When one buddy goes, "Yeah, everybody needs to stop." I said, "Look, stop. Nobody's going to do that. Everybody says that. Nobody does that. If everybody did stop going, it would take about 2 weeks for somebody to say, oh, man, what do I got? But I go back to your point. It's not like at the end of the day, at least at the top, they don't want to do well. It's just they don't know the right way of doing it. By the way, not to pick on old Johnson Batamosi again, but he summed up the Browns' entire since 1999 when he pointed the wrong way on the fumble. I swear to God.
That was hilarious.
I'm watching the game, and the ball's loose, and there's about 8 of us in the room, but they're already not paying attention to the game. Everybody's looking on their phones, checking their fantasy scores, watching other games, and where people actually score touchdowns. And then I go, look, he's pointing the wrong way. He wants the Steelers to get the first down, man. And then he turns his body around and points the other way. I was like, man, you were better off to just not acknowledge that you made a mistake, because now
and that's already gone viral too.
It has. I bet it has.
I was seeing it on Twitter last night. The other thing, Darren, and I'll just say this, that makes me crazy. When Danny Shelton comes in the game and it's 30-9, and he stuffs a guy in the backfield,
they high five and salute,
and he gets up waving his finger like, dude, no, you're not going to get through. This kind of gesturing, this kind of draw attention to yourself. I just want to say, shut the hell up and go back to the line. You're down 3 touchdowns.
Dan,
your team is terrible. Don't be drawing attention to yourself. Don't be congratulating yourself for being down 3 touchdowns to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers aren't even that good.
Dan, it's on my list.
They were down. Lose a bunch more games before this season is over. So anyway. That just absolutely makes me nuts when these guys are posturing, gesticulating, demonstrating their greatness when they're down 30-9 in the fourth quarter of a game. It just makes me nuts.
Dan, they were down, I think it was 21-3. It was right before that, because I know I have that on my paper, what you're talking about, because it was when it was like 21-3. They made a stop for like a 3 or 4 yard loss on a run play, and the guy, and I can't remember who it was the end, he jumps up and he salutes his teammate, and they high five each other, and then he walked to the next 3 teammates and he did the salute and the 5. Salute and the 5. And I'm like, Dude, you're losing by 3 touchdowns. What the hell are you doing? That's the first tackle you've made all game, bro. Are you just happy you showed up in the stat sheet? I mean, that really pissed me off, too. And then Shelton, I'm like, come on, you guys. You make yourself look like clowns. Like, you're oblivious to what the score of the freaking game is when you do stuff like that. That's just stupid to me.
Yep, absolutely. No other word for it.
I mean, what are you celebrating? A tackle. And that's the best part. Even if we were winning 30-9 at that point, you made a 3-yard tackle. That is, last I checked, your very basic job description. That is just showing up to work, basically, is all you did. And it's a freaking parade. And so, let alone when you're losing. But that drives me nuts either way that it goes, man. So, I mean, this is going to be a long week of this same kind of talk. I'm curious what your gut tells you over the next 14 days, 15, because you got till Monday Night Football. Even though Jimmy Haslam says nothing's going to change, he strikes me as the kind of guy that stews on stuff, man. Do you think we make it the next 2 weeks with no changes? Or maybe is there even like something done just for the sake of something done? What do you think? Or does he just sit silent until the last game and then he just literally says the whole organization is fired?
Frankly, I was a little bit surprised that he commented at all after the game. And I believe the specific quote was, no changes.
Yeah.
During the bye week, no changes.
Mm-hmm.
Which you know, is a red flag in itself. It means changes are coming, just
right.
not now.
It's the vote of confidence in reverse.
And, you know, we speculated a little bit about O'Neill losing his job. That would be a pointless, purely symbolic gesture, as I said, but still might happen. You know, teams do those things, and just to pretend there's accountability in the moment for that kind of stuff. You know, we've watched the other teams during the year. We watched the Miami Dolphins can their coach. We watched the Detroit Lions clean out their front office. You know, it's other programs can do it. Other teams can do it. Now, you know, the Browns will be uniquely criticized for doing it if they do it, because of the history of turnover and the revolving door that we've had here. You know, maybe deservedly so. But, you know, continuity is only good if the status quo is acceptable. And we're, I think, of one mind here that our status quo is clearly not acceptable.
It's not. And I want to jump in there, Dan, because that's kind of where I wanted to go. And this is something that you and I want to, we can talk about this a little bit now, and then it's something for the bye week to think about. But let's put yesterday, let's do Mike Pettine's favorite thing, compartmental. By the way, as much as I've stuck up for that man, when he said he had to look at the damn film again yesterday after the game, that's when I said, look, man, whatever I was holding out for you, you've really just kind of took it away, man. Did you really just, you couldn't have just said, this is unacceptable. I don't need to look at the film to know that we committed a small village of turnovers tonight and literally traveled back by foot to Cleveland by penalty yardage. You know what I'm saying? But instead, you say, I got to go check my film. We joke about that. But when he said that again, I'm like, man, now you're just saying that just to be a dick. Like, why did you say that, man? Because
well, I think he really is to the point of just mouthing the platitudes.
The cliches,
yeah. You know, the coach speak.
But here's the thing,
that we hear.
Let's forget yesterday, and let's forget that in 6 weeks they're all gone. Let's pretend that we've got a bye week, 6 weeks of the season left. To me, if I'm in any way worried or trying or anything to still have a job 6 weeks and 1 day from now, if I'm Mike Pettin, if I'm these Browns, what are things that they can do? Because to me, number one, and I've been big on the whole Johnny Manziel thing, but now you're at the point where there's no problem in him playing. And I don't think anybody should have a problem with it just because who cares, number one, the season's over. It really is over. But he is at least able to go out there, snap the ball, get us from one play to the next. We're not getting anything while he's doing it, but whatever. Who cares? I mean, I'm to that point where, to me, actually, I think if he goes back to McCown after the bye week, he's probably asking to get fired. I think that would be like a sign that I'm just tired of working here and I want you to let me go and I just don't want to quit so that I can keep getting a paycheck. But we'll see about that. But I like McCown. I don't think Manziel's the future. That being said, I definitely give him the last 6 games because who cares? See what he can do. At least find out if he's a backup, if he's a starter, or if he's not in your plans at all. I'm fine with that. I really do think that a lot of what he did yesterday was exactly what the Steelers gave him. There were a few nice throws, but I do think that a lot of that was the function of what they gave him. That being said, he got a good completion percentage, and he can at least hit the ones that they give you, which is better than he could do a year ago. So I'll take that. But
that's true. And I was wondering, frankly, during the game, what your thinking was as Johnny is racking up 31 out of 38 for 370
it didn't
something.
Feel
and,
like it,
because you and I, we've been of one mind about Johnny. We disagree very little about Johnny and what we think of him and his future. But someone asked me after the game. A good friend of mine who's on Twitter with me after the game. He tweets out, "Hey, I missed the Browns game today. How did Johnny Football look?" And my response to him was, "It's a low bar to get over, obviously, but he looked as good as anybody else that was wearing an orange helmet yesterday."
Now that's true.
Or better. And that really is true. Yes. As much as, and count me among the anti-Johnny people in this town, had to admit to myself, he did, it's an NFL game, and he threw for 370-some yards, and he completed 33 out of 45, and he didn't look terrible doing it. I'll give him all that. And, yes, a good part of that is the scheme, and the Steelers said, beat me throwing the ball because you're not going to beat me running the ball. And did we or did we not have negative rushing yardage?
Absolutely. They ran a soft zone, and they basically said, you're not going to run it. You're going to get these spots to throw the ball into. We're not going to give you anything over the top, and we're not going to give you any runs,
Right. And they stuffed the run like nobody's ever stuffed the run before.
My goodness. They barely got the
they made our offensive line look unbelievably inept. That offensive line that was supposed to be one of the strengths of our team.
Real quick, Dan, let me interrupt real quick. Doesn't it make the announcers look stupid while this is happening and the defensive line is annihilating us? Do you remember hearing, I can't remember which announcer it was, he actually said the phrase that it's such a strong, standout, competitive offensive line, one of the best in the league, that it's hard to crack this starting lineup when he was talking about Cam Irving. And he actually said, it's just a testament to how competitive and how superior that offensive line is that you can't even crack the starting lineup. It took him 10 games to get in there or whatever. And I'm going, have you watched this offensive line play? Or did you just show up and get handed a roster and start talking about a team that you've never seen play? Because that is not a good offensive line at all.
Yeah, well, blessedly, because I was at this party I was telling you about.
Oh, you had no sound.
I didn't. There was some sound, but I wasn't paying a lot of attention to it.
Right.
I'll oftentimes mute the volume anyway with an NFL football game because what are they going to tell me?
That the Browns have a great offensive line.
I think individually, certainly, I think you could make the case that the Browns and Joe Thomas, Joel Bitonio, Alex Mack, maybe even Mitchell Schwartz have decent players on the offensive line. So to me, it's a function of coordination and coaching.
And I agree.
That you're not getting them to play together as a unit. You're not getting good productivity out of them. That's a coaching function. Maybe we overrate some of these guys. Maybe Joe Thomas is past his prime. Maybe, but the sites, the websites and the analysts that rate offensive linemen continue to rate Mitchell Schwartz highly, continue to rate Joel Bitonio and Alex Mack highly. Among their peers in the NFL. So to me, it's a coaching problem. You
notice the problem, I think, and I think a lot of people are targeting when Alex Mack got hurt last season. But here's my thought. I know, yes, that was a 4-week run where the running game dipped, but it still stayed okay during those first few weeks after Alex Mack got hurt. I think where the offensive line fell apart, and it's never been the same, is that the way Shanahan was coaching that zone blocking scheme was working. They were effectively working very well as a unit. I think it wasn't just Mack's injury, but it was the combination of Mack's injury and when they started changing the offense to Johnny Manziel, when they were going that way at the end of the season when everything was just all blown up and we were just scrambling for those last 4 or 5 weeks. I think they got away because of all the changes to the line. They got away. They didn't even use much of the zone blocking schemes in the second half of the season. And then obviously Shanahan hit the bricks and was gone after that. But I think that does show what you think of his play calling is one thing, But I think that showed that he had a real tangible value and was a very good schemer when it came to that offensive line. And clearly his blocking scheme, I think, was right for the personnel that we have, and the fact that they've really ditched what was such a strength. I think so many people look at that week that Alex Mack got hurt and say that's when everything changed, but I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks later when they just completely ditched the majority of that zone blocking and just kind of went real basic, and then Shanahan was gone and the zone blocking scheme was gone.
Well, we heard that the zone blocking scheme was going to be, continued and carried over.
It clearly hasn't.
And I think there's been some of that, but and I also do believe that Alex Mack's injury was a big part of that thing. You can't take a Pro Bowl center out of there and not feel as though. Yeah, you make good points that things did change and the whole approach did change when Manziel started playing, and then we also saw simultaneously the sort of unraveling of Brian Hoyer too last year after the 7-4 start. I think we also saw a little bit of rebellion on the part of the offense because they didn't want Johnny Manziel in there when he was in there.
Absolutely.
And I think even if it's subconscious, I think they did not play as well with him there because they didn't want him to be there. And I don't know how much of that carries over. I really don't. I have no way of sensing that other than seeing how this offensive line played yesterday. One of the worst displays of they didn't even attempt that many runs. The one long drive, they had 0 running plays even attempted because the Steelers had shown for 2.5 quarters that you weren't going to do it. And they weren't going to allow it, and they were going to push our offensive lineman back into, the quarterback and the running back's face. So, yeah, it was, they finally abandoned it, and you can hardly blame them.
So, Dan, back to where that started. We went off a little bit on the Manziel. So, are you with me as far as, hey, let's see 6 more games of what this kid can do? I mean, at least, I'm fine with that. I do think if Mike Pettin says that he's going back, then to me, that's a clear thumb to the nose of the organization, and that's you know what? I know you're going to fire me, so y'all are just going to have to fire me now. But
I'm with you, Jerry. As far as being okay and not going to scream and be outraged if Johnny Manziel doesn't play the rest of the season. No, I'm okay with that.
And we need to see it. We need to see it to get it over with. You know what I mean?
I'm sure you also noticed yesterday, Jerry, that the Browns have now assumed the position. After 10 games of the season, we are in position. Number one choice in the NFL
Number
draft.
1, thanks to the Lions. Absolutely. We are in position.
Number one in the draft. So, it's not too early.
Don't ask me who we're picking. I'm not going there just yet. Maybe next week you and I will talk about that. But here's my thought. If I'm Mike Pettin, right, and I do want to make a last-ditch effort to salvage my job, then I do believe he can do something. I really do, and I believe it is the defense. I believe that the only hope for him is to, take control of your defense. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get any better, but what I'm saying is eliminate – you can't – you're not going to fire your boy, but you need to take over your defense. You need to go, how do I fix it? And try it. It's not going to work, or maybe it will. I don't know. But point is that Jimmy Haslam needs to see you go, damn it, the only thing that I can control for the next 6 weeks is defense, because it's the only thing that's my specialty. I'm taking over this defense, and I'm going to try to fix it for the last 6 weeks. I do think that at least you can be proactive. But if you just continue to walk out and go, we're going to do what's best to win, and then I got to check the film when it's over, then whatever. But, I mean, if you're at least trying, that's something I would like to see. And I would like to see him say during the bye week that I dove into that defense, and at least we've made some tweaks. And if it doesn't work, at least I can't say that I didn't. Eliminate the coaching, eliminate the insulation. That's your specialty. So for 6 weeks, go out there, coach your ass off on defense, and see if you can at least show that, it wasn't your fault, because otherwise it's all coming down on you.
Yeah, Jared, let me ask you something, and I don't know this. You follow the injury reports and all that.
Yeah.
It was my understanding that Justin Gilbert was not dressed.
Right.
Is he hurt?
No.
Was he on the injury list
Justin
with any
Gilbert
kind of
was
an injury, questionable, probable, any of that
He was
stuff?
healthy scratch yesterday, as far as I know.
Inactive, a healthy scratch.
Yeah.
So apparently, and I saw they were having Duke Johnson return kickoffs and Marlon Moore return kickoffs. So the one area where Justin was presumably helping the team is no longer operative, as Bill Clinton used to say. So it's
And you know what? Dwayne Bowe being down
from
too.
here on out, where is this guy? I mean, this is such a glaring embarrassment that it's just almost beyond belief that this guy can't dress, and you're playing a backup safety at cornerback in the NFL.
I absolutely agree. And then, of course, as the game, and you can't control injuries, but like the Dwayne Bowe thing doesn't get thrown up in the face enough, it was escalated even more because he's another healthy scratch yesterday, and you lose multiple wide receivers to concussions, and you all of a sudden find yourself trying to patch together enough wide receivers to have an offensive formation. And it was good to hear, by the way, that Hawkins is out of the hospital. He was actually hospitalized overnight.
Admitted, yeah.
That was his second concussion in like 3 weeks, and that's very dangerous. He had already missed 2 games a couple of weeks ago. He just got hurt back at the end of October, and then missed 2 weeks, came back, caught a second concussion there. That's something that is obviously going to have to be watched in the future, but he was literally hospitalized.
Said he has no memory of what happened.
Yes,
either.
no memory, and those
that is pretty scary.
So you lose
but anyway,
him,
just
you lose
thought
Gabriel.
I wasn't aware. I'd heard that Gilbert was not dressed or inactive, and I didn't really recall having heard why, and just wanted to find out on that little minor note that the seventh pick in the draft can't get on the field over a backup safety.
Can't even get him on the field. That's amazing. And you know what, too, real quickly, because this is you and I, a little thing that we talk about. How about they just refuse? I know they got the penalty on it, but do you or do you not think that was an egregious face mask on Johnny Manziel when they literally spun his head around on that play?
Crazy. He was spitting out his ear hole on that.
That was ejectable to me. That was.
Now, did you see that they had a little exchange of tweets this morning?
No, I did not.
The Steeler player apologized for the face mask. Said, hey, tweeted to Johnny and said, hey man, sorry about the face mask, nothing personal. And Johnny responded to say, hey, no hard feelings, it's part of the game.
Oh,
so
okay.
the two of them had that little exchange on Twitter this morning. I think the Steeler linebacker will be and should be fined, possibly suspended for it. It is one of the most flagrant, severe face mask felonies I've ever seen. And, but I thought it was interesting that the two players had their little Twitter exchange this morning where it was, hey, no, my bad, sorry. Johnny says, no problem, part of the game.
Yeah, I did see that he apologized. I didn't know that was on Twitter, but I did see the headline. And yeah, going back to your question yesterday with the inactives for the Browns, Bowe and Gilbert were healthy scratches. Hayden, Whitner, McCown, Bitonio were all injury scratches. By the way, even though we didn't draft them all, the Browns had 4 first-round draft picks on the inactive list yesterday when you look at Hayden, Whitner, Bowe, and Gilbert all being down for the game. So they had 4 starters down in Hayden, Whitner, Bitonio, and McCown. I mean, amazing. But yeah, there you go. When you're trotting out Batamosi, and basically he explained, Mike Pettin, and I should pull this up so that I don't misquote him, but I believe in his postgame he explained that basically that decision came down to Gaines and wanting to see, and I'm thinking, what position did we have a tight squeeze where we couldn't activate Gaines and Gilbert, where we had to choose one or the other? Like, how does that work, that we didn't find an extra roster spot for both of them just for the hell of it? We had to pick one.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, is it doesn't take a draft analyst or a player personnel director to see that your best 2 cover corners, and again, low bar to get over. If Hayden's on the sidelines, the K'Wan Williams should have been playing outside instead of, the playing the nickel corner, slot corner. K'Wan Williams at least is semi-capable of coverage, and he's fast. Pierre Desir got toasted badly by Martavis Bryant on one play, but he has filled in fairly decently for Joe Hayden while he's been hurt. Why those 2 guys aren't your outside corners? Let Batamosi cover the slot guy or the tight end or whoever that guy's responsible for. For God's sake, put a cornerback outside on the wideouts
instead of the safety. Yeah. Hey, by the way,
Crazy.
speaking of corners, what did you think of Gaines? First start in the NFL, or first appearance in the NFL here after he looked good in preseason, and that's somebody that's been down for injury for the first 10 weeks or whatever. But I know he was active tackling-wise because the Steelers were completing a bunch of passes.
He looked like a rookie corner looks. A bit overwhelmed. He's like the rest of our DBs. He's undersized.
No.
And he looked like a rookie out of Louisville. I mean, he didn't look like Cyrus Jones, the rookie out of Alabama next year, will look. But it's the toughest position in the NFL. I've said it a million times. So you can't expect a green rookie to come in and play against Ben Roethlisberger and look good. But he was active, and like you said, he made a couple tackles. He got toasted a couple times, like any corner will. But I'm not sure if he's a guy to count on going forward. I think they do have a couple guys. I think this year might develop into a decent cornerback in this league, too. I think he might before I think Charles Gaines might.
You're listening to the Sports Fix. Dan Wismar, J-Rocc. We're done talking about the Browns here, man. They're on the bye week, and so are we. And they may do the job to the bye week, man. They may lose. I don't know what the over/under is on the bye week here. I don't know if they're getting points or not. But if the Browns are giving up points during the bye week, take it. Take it with the over and package that together. But
exactly.
Around the rest of the league, and again, it ruined my yesterday because I didn't watch any games last night, but I couldn't sleep. Ended up about 4 o'clock this morning for the rest of the morning. So I went back, watched some stuff, caught up on everything that I missed. And I don't know how much you watched yesterday, but first off, how about that? I did go back and watch a large part of that Giants and Patriots game. And the Giants, it was almost deja vu from that situation earlier in the season where they had a chance to they still wouldn't have iced it, but they could have taken maybe another 30 seconds off the clock there at the end, and instead they left Tom Brady enough time to come on back and come on. I saw you tweeted at one point it'd be a shame if the Giants blow this game, but they did, and the Patriots go to 9-0, and I think that they are just 9-0 on their way to 19 in the Super Bowl. But did you catch that game?
I did. I watched most of all of the second half, I think, pretty much. And when I made that tweet about it'll be a shame if the Giants lose, it was just after they dropped the gift-wrap interception with 1:25 to go in the game that would have ended the game. And as it turned out, it went right down to the final second, and of course, they pulled it out. Brady, about as smooth and about as cool as anybody could possibly be, getting the ball, and they managed the timeouts. They saved the timeout till the end. That they needed, and just did it picture perfectly, proving that it can be done, that clock management is not impossible, and that 2-minute drills can be done. So, yeah, it was picture perfect. I thought the Giants had done everything they needed to do, even when they scored the touchdown, right near the end of the game, right before the 2-minute warning. It was, I don't know. You got to just tip your hat to the Patriots, and a lot of people were saying before this game that this might be the toughest game left on their schedule. They really don't have that daunting of a schedule down the stretch, and that at the Giants looked like the toughest out on their whole remaining schedule to try and go 16-0. But it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they did it. And of course, you've been calling for it since before the season started.
I think it's coming, man. But, I mean, I'll tell you what. You know what I saw? It's a little statistical thing, but just the things that separate the good from the great, man. Danny Amendola on that last catch, if he goes down where he's surrounded by the tacklers, it's a 60-yard field goal attempt or whatever, and the odds of the Patriots making it at that point in time I saw were I don't know, 30 or 40%, and he got 6.5 extra yards at the end of that play while he was surrounded by tacklers that turned it into a much more manageable 53.5-yard field goal and literally doubled the percentage of making it just by covering that additional 6.5 yards, man. That to me says a lot. Like I always go back to the Browns game, there were several times on the traditional 3rd and 7 4-yard pass and those kind of things. And we were joking about how even when you play Madden, there's one button that you can hit that just tells your receiver to run to the sticks and turn around. And I'm like, damn, even on Madden, they got the run to the sticks button, and we don't have that on the Browns. But that little bit of shiftiness there made the difference. And I'm telling you, I agree with you. The East is not strong. I mean, as we've seen, the Dolphins aren't what people thought they they were going to be. The Bills aren't what people thought they were going to be. I think they're running the table now. I thought, damn, this is going to be it, and it's going to be the Giants again that do in the Patriots. And once they pulled it out, I said, man, I don't think there's no stopping them now.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, anything can happen. But speaking of Danny Amendola, the 82-yard punt return touchdown might even be a little bit more significant than that last.
Of course, yes, absolutely, huge.
That was incredible. That was huge. They were down 10 points at the time, and it didn't look good for them. They weren't moving the ball that well. But in the other game last night,
they did lose Edelman. That may be important. They did lose Edelman. Amendola is going to have to be able to step up now and be that receiver because Edelman. I don't know if he's out for the season, but I know he's out with the foot injury, right?
Right, yeah. And nothing would make – they had surgery, I understand, last night.
Yeah.
Nothing would make me happier, though, than to see the Seattle Seahawks not make the playoffs. They fell to 4-5 last night. The Cardinals played a great game. Carson Palmer, what a game he had. And they won that game by staying aggressive right till the end. Keep throwing the ball. They were throwing the ball on first down with a 3-point lead under 2 minutes. I mean, they were winging it down the field. They ended up scoring a touchdown and, pulled away and ended up winning that game by a touchdown. But, boy, I was so impressed with Carson Palmer and with that whole Cardinals team. I heard Mortensen say a couple of weeks ago he thought the Cardinals were the best team in the NFC, and they're setting about to prove it. The Seahawks are 4-5, another loss, maybe 2 at the most, and they are toast in terms of even making the playoffs after 2 straight Super Bowls. So nothing would please me more than that because I'm not a Seahawks fan or a Pete Carroll fan. But anyway, that was another really, really entertaining NFL game last night.
I did catch the end of that live while it was happening around 11:30 or whatever time it was. I came out of my Browns coma and popped that end of that on. And I think that end shocked me the most because you're thinking, okay, the Seahawks defense clearly hasn't been the Seahawks defense all year and even during that game. But you get down to the end where they need to stop with 2 minutes left to get the ball back and give themselves a shot. And instead, like you said, here come the Cards and they get the touchdown and you go, damn, I didn't expect that. And then boom, the game's over. It's a 10-point game there with
the only reason the Seahawks got back into it is because their defense just went absolutely crazy.
Yeah, they got the return
and two sack fumbles.
Yep.
One on Palmer, they got at the 3-yard line. The next series, they get one that goes for a touchdown.
Yep.
So they really scored 2 touchdowns just completely off the defense to even get themselves in striking distance. Actually took the lead on the second one, but Cardinals showed some real grit and came back and got them. But it's nice, as we always say, to watch real NFL football after we get done watching the Browns.
Look around that's so wrong, but it's so true. Look around the rest of the league. Jacksonville took care of Baltimore. Baltimore's free fall continues here this season. How about, speaking of, Denver? I mean, we talked about, you say Seattle, and that was a lot of people. Super Bowl, Denver, Seattle, going back at it again. And, man, how about it? Not only, Peyton Manning was bad before the injury, and he has been banged up. This has been his worst season throughout, his entire career. But now he's on a stretch where he's thrown an interception. I believe it's 9 consecutive games now that he's thrown an interception in. Longest stretch of his career. And they even had a list I saw on the stats and info page of the other quarterbacks that did it. And let me just tell you, most of them look like they belong on the back of that jersey that is the Browns starting quarterbacks. Because those Gradkowski's. And Manning just now the injury on top of that, but he was benched for ineffectiveness yesterday. What was he, 5 for 20? Never seen him
5
look
for 20 with 4 interceptions. Yeah. It really is sad. I don't know if irony is the right word for it, but on the day that he breaks the all-time passing yardage record, he has probably his worst ever game as a professional. And is benched for the first time ever. And then I just read this morning he does have a torn plantar fascia in his one foot, and that may end his season for him, and it may end his career. Frankly, that would be a shame. But Jimmy Haslam wants to hire him to run the Browns, so maybe Peyton Manning's coming to Cleveland. Who knows?
I'm all for that. By the way,
it was strange and sad to see him go down, and if he goes out like that really is a shame because he is arguably the best ever.
And that I think is the only question mark maybe of whether this is it or not, is that's not the way you want to go. Especially, I mean, like you say, the irony, whatever the term is, to have it be the day that it's, you're overtaking such a monumental record there, and then for it to also be your worst game, you get benched. I mean, that's a sum of kind of where it's gotten, but it makes you wonder if it's the end of this season, if he doesn't want to come back and have, but then you run the risk of, does it just get worse? And do you have something else happen next year? And then all of a sudden you've had 4 or 5 bad things, bad years, bad ending results in a row, and it really puts a bad luster on the, people always talk about the guys that stayed around a season or two too long and all of that.
Yeah, the guy that I always think about when those situations come up is Willie Mays.
Willie Mays, absolutely.
Who arguably hung around too long and was a shadow of his former self at the end, and you hate to see it.
Was that it?
And the antithesis of that, of course, is Jimmy Brown, who went out on top, thumbing his nose at the world. But
Brett Favre,
I would hate to see that happen.
Going and playing for 4 different teams or whatever, trying to play after he leaves. I mean, I get it. He had the one good run with the Vikings, but it's like seeing Brett Favre in the Jets uniform. You're like, ugh, really? This isn't the guy I remember, man.
Like Willie Mays on the Mets.
On the Mets, exactly. I knew that's where he played. I knew it was the Mets.
That just shouldn't happen.
Right, and I agree with you. And you could go with so many of those guys, different guys throughout the years that spend the last year or two. Where was Joe Namath? All kinds of guys. They leave the team that they're known for, and they limp out. Johnny Unitas, I think, spent his last couple of years. All guys that went to a different team and stayed a year or two longer than perhaps they should have. But I'm interested to see. Pride is a big thing, man. I don't know that his pride lets him go out like that. But everybody has said what you said. The rumors of Jimmy Haslam being dead set on whenever this guy is done, bringing him in. I'm all about. If nothing else, listen. If we think that Bernie Kosar can pick a quarterback and find a quarterback, I'm pretty sure Peyton Manning can too. So, if nothing else, I think the guy can find us a quarterback and help us in that regard. So I'm all for it. And what are your thoughts? Do you think Peyton Manning could be an executive? I think he's got the mind to do it, but then again, you never know with a guy. But I think he could.
Oh yeah, I think if you're gonna pick a guy who is a football player with no track record whatsoever in management, and what you're really relying on there is knowledge of the game, instincts, brains, and understanding, and being able to see what's going on the football field and make judgments about it. Certainly, if you take out all the other candidates who have actual experience running a football team, and you're going to hire a guy who's never had a lick of experience running a football team, he'd be the guy I'd want.
I agree. I'm with it, man. I hope that that Jimmy Haslam connection is true, and that's something to think about here going forward. If I'm Jimmy Haslam, I've already made the call and said, "Hey, rest up, man, but just don't lose this number in a couple of weeks. If things change, I'd like to talk to you." So,
right.
Anyways,
Well, that the family connection is there, and
absolutely.
So it's just a matter of what does Peyton Manning want to do.
Like, come on, man. The uniforms are orange and everything, man. Come on, Peyton.
Right.
Come on over here
Exactly.
and help a brother.
We already
out,
look like Tennessee.
Hey, you know what? He's big with the United Way. He does a lot of charity work. Why don't we just sell it to him like we're Make-A-Wish kids? And he's coming to Make-A-Wish. Cleveland is making a wish right now. We're like we're just like, hey, please make our football team not an embarrassment. And then so, hopefully the magnanimous Mr. Manning may come in and help grant our wish. We're just a giant group of Make-A-Wish kids here in Cleveland hoping to turn
exactly. I guess the only question would be, what would the title be and what would the role be? Would it be executive?
Director,
would it be front office?
Everything.
Would it be president of the organization, replacing Alex Scheiner and whoever knows, whatever else in terms of responsibilities? Would it be player personnel? Would it be general manager? Certainly couldn't really be head coach. But I heard somebody yesterday ask, and Bruce just hints at it in the chat room, can he play wide receiver, do you think? We'll have to ask him if he's got any moves left to play wide out in the NFL. So anyway, we'll sort that all out when he signs the contract, right?
I'm just saying, man. My friends keep bugging me about LeBron playing tight end for the Browns, man. I mean, let's see if maybe we can bring them all together. Get Bernie. We put the quarterback club. Remember the quarterback club back in the late '90s? Their little marketing thing. Yeah, I mean, John Elway made it work in Denver. Maybe we can get Bernie and Peyton Manning together, and they can be the co-czars, football czars, in charge of everything that touches the pigskin. And anyways, but that is the direction that they got to go. It'll be interesting to see, perhaps, if that plays out. So, man, what do you got left? I mean, after this weekend shakes out, you've got 3 undefeated teams left. Obviously, the Browns got trounced by the Bengals there. Bengals sitting at 8-0. You got the Patriots, who we talked about. You got the Carolina Panthers. Do you think Carolina's the real deal, bro?
I do. I've been very impressed with them. I like them. They don't have superstars at wide receiver. What they do have is a couple of Buckeyes that have been playing great. Ted Ginn, Billy Brown. But I've enjoyed watching them. They're entertaining to watch. Cam Newton really, come into his own, and they've got a really strong defense. I do think they're the real deal. They play in, obviously, what's probably the weakest division in the NFL. Certainly that helps, and I don't think they'll go undefeated, but are they a Super Bowl contender? I think absolutely. I think you got to say that maybe the Cardinals and the Panthers look like the strong horses in the NFC right now, especially since the Packers have taken such a dive 3 weeks in a row now.
Absolutely. And, again, not to kick the Browns while they're down, but when you look at the quarterbacks and the drafting and you look at things that go against Ray Farmer, 2 guys that have helped 2 teams. Even though the Raiders are still trending around 500, they're right in the thrush of the wild card mix with Carr at quarterback there and Teddy Bridgewater and the Minnesota Vikings. And, of course, Adrian Peterson. But how about the Vikes? 7-2. I did not see that coming at all. I did not think the Vikings were going to be all that. I thought they'd be a 500 team or so this season. But, again, it shows that getting that pick right obviously starts to give you somewhere to turn things around with the Raiders and the Vikings. But, man, how about the Vikings, man?
I watched that game because I've been very entranced with the Raiders this year. So I was watching that game. I was surprised when I turned it on to see that the Vikings were ahead, really dominating the game. I think they went up 10-0. I don't think they ever trailed. And finished it off at the end. I mean, Adrian Peterson back to being Adrian Peterson. That helps a heck of a lot.
Sure
but they have good receivers. Stephon Diggs has been a real find for him, a kid out of Maryland who I think was a 4th-round pick for them, playing great. And Bridgewater's just doing enough. He hasn't been flashy. He hasn't put up huge numbers. But they have been good, and he's got obviously a big-time running back, and their defense has been playing very well. So, yeah, I think they're for real, too. I don't know if they're going to contend down the stretch or how far they'll go in the playoffs, but they certainly have turned their thing around, and they have, my son-in-law is a Vikings fan. He's from Minnesota. He's a big fan, so I pay attention for that reason, and because they've got, they've got one of those quarterbacks that Cleveland could have had, should have had, and he was the guy that all their $100,000 evaluation process told him was the best quarterback in the draft, and so they didn't take him. You want to see those guys. I'm watching the Derek Carrs and the Teddy Bridgewaters lead their teams back to respectability and wondering about what might have been.
That's right. And for those of you that act like this thing has to be the way it is, it doesn't. You just look around the league and you see teams like we mentioned, like the Raiders, like Minnesota. I mean, these are 2-3 season turnarounds. They're not overnight jobs, but they're organizations that have been mired for how long has it been since the Raiders or since the Raiders went to the Super Bowl with Gruden, but that was freaking 15-20 years ago. I mean, how long has it been since these teams have been relevant? They were in depths entrenched just as badly as the Browns, and you get the right people drafting them, the right people picking them, and the right people coaching them, and all of a sudden it doesn't take 20 years to turn it around. It takes 2 or 3. And I think
you're right. And the guy, you got to credit the guy in Minnesota. It's not Skinner. I'm forgetting the name of the Vikings coach, but I think he's in his second year. He's got to get all the credit for turning that situation around. Plus, they again got their quarterback and somehow weathered the Adrian Peterson storm.
They sure did, and being back to being AP, as you said, it's as big a deal as anything else, man, because if the Browns had AP, maybe they'd cover some of their mistakes, but even then, it wouldn't be enough to cover all these holes, so we'll see. Got a bye week for the Browns. We'll talk some more NFL next week. I know Wednesday, you and I can get a lot more into talking some Buckeyes and all that. Buckeyes with their final, I guess, last respite before you hit the double shot from the schools up north there, Michigan State coming up. A lot of people disappointed in the Buckeyes game the other day. Were you one of them?
Not really. And there was, like you say, there was a lot of hand-wringing, especially in the media corps, that expected more, of a blowout. And I think what people were disappointed in is the conservatism of the offense. Teams are lining up, loading the box. We're going to stop Zeke Elliott. Zeke runs for 180 yards, but they kept on pounding him and pounding him and pounding him. I think people really wanted to see the offense opened up more, and Urban and his staff have just flat refused to do that. And you can say, well, they're saving it. They're not showing it. They're 10-0. They're in the playoff hunt right now. They're in the third spot. I don't know what people want, but that was a pretty dominating performance. The last 2 weeks, just people forget to notice that the last two games, the Buckeyes have surrendered 33 and 20 rushing yards in the last two games.
Yeah.
53 yards total in 2 games rushing the football. That defense is playing at a dominating level. They have not been giving up big plays, with only 1 or 2 exceptions over the last 3 weeks. And they've been just flat shutting teams down. And if you can score 4 touchdowns, you're going to win. And if you have 4 touchdowns and 1 that they took away from you, where J.T. Barrett was up to his waist across the goal line, and somehow they said he didn't score, and then they missed a chip shot field goal, that would have made it 35-3, and maybe people would have been a little bit happier with that. All that said, Jerry, though, I came away from that game thinking that, and I've said it all along, I think that the Buckeyes are going to lose one of the next 2 games. I don't know which one, but I think it's going to be one. I was very surprised that there was a 13-point spread opening line on the Michigan State game. 13.
That's a lot.
To me, that seems awfully high, and
me too.
I would be very much inclined to take Michigan State plus the points. It's a home game for Ohio State, but man, oh man, 13's a lot. And if you remember last year against Michigan State in East Lansing, Michigan State was up 21-14, and they scored another touchdown and would have made it 28-14, except they got called back on a penalty. One play later, the Buckeyes hit a long touchdown pass to Michael Thomas, and it's 21-all, and the rest is history. They end up winning by 12 points. Pretty much dominated the second half, but Michigan State is a good football team, and they're 9-1, and they are tough, and I just think 13's too many. I've said all along, I think it might be the Spartans' year. They hit a bump in the road when they got kind of screwed over at Nebraska, but I think they still think that this might be their year, and that they're going to come in loaded for bear, and I think they might be just slightly the more motivated team next week, and I'm very concerned about this game from the Buckeyes standpoint.
Same here. I do think the Buckeyes can pull it out, but it's going to take obviously defensively, as you said, they're dialed in. What is it, 4 games now, 34 points? It's an average of 8 points a game they've given up the last 4 weeks, and obviously the difficulty level goes to a whole nother level, but defensively they've been dialed up. And what was the stat that I saw? That Michigan State, they've had a strong offensive line, so that's going to be a challenge defensively for the Buckeyes to get him. I think it's a dozen sacks all year long, or 13, I think, that Michigan State's given up all season long. So that's going to be a challenge there, obviously. And defensively, they get after the quarterback. And so that offensive line of Ohio State is definitely going to be facing some pressure from beginning to end here. And they're going to need to really keep J.T. Barrett clean to give him the opportunity to repeat the performance that he had last year against this team.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the things that everybody was pointing out about the game Saturday was that the offensive line and pass protection was not good.
No.
And really, and you can sort of single out, and I hate to single out kids in general, but the right tackle for the Buckeyes, Chase Ferris, who's a senior, is a very, very capable run blocker. He has been, I heard him described as a turnstile the other day as a pass blocker. He just has not been getting the job done, and he's struggled mightily. So that needs to get fixed. I saw Ross Fulton, one of the guys that I really respect as an analyst of Buckeye football, say that he doesn't know that the Buckeyes are a championship team with that player at right tackle for them. They're not strong enough as a pass protecting team with him there to win it all. Now, maybe they beat Michigan State, maybe they beat Michigan, but he doesn't think they can win a national title with that guy there at right tackle. So that's serious, and they're going to need to do something else. And they tried to make adjustments the other day. They tried, helping them out with a tight end or helping them out chipping with a running back or something, but it's a real problem for them. So the pass protection is an issue. They're going to have to address it. But I tell you, they've been able to run the ball even against the teams that are loading up to stop it. Teams are daring them to throw it down the field, and Urban and his play callers have just steadfastly refused to do much of that. We're going to run the ball, and we're not going to show you anything. And I'm conflicted about this whole idea that you save a bunch of stuff for the big games, that you don't show, your trick plays or your pitch sweeps, or you don't do the jet sweeps, or you don't do the wide receiver screens, and you don't run the full playbook until you get down to the final two games. Well, it also means you don't practice them. I mean, obviously you're practicing in practice, but you don't have game reps with them. Who knows if those plays are going to be streamlined enough and well practiced enough and well drilled enough to pull them off when you need them. So it's a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other thing. I mean, it's a blessing and a curse that you're not showing them in games, and which means you're not sure you can pull them off in games.
I've always been of that same mindset, too. It's a fine line between saving something and being sharp enough at it, because if you haven't done it all season, then who knows? I mean, so I guess I'm with you on that one there. We can really get into this more as this weekend would be the first of two. Michigan State and Michigan coming up for the Buckeyes, and we'll talk about that as well. Hey, get into some hoops. The Buckeyes Hoop Squad got started this weekend with a little bit of, I don't know, you want to call it a little getting loose, I don't want to say exhibition, but getting loose a little bit the other day. Obviously, the competition will get a lot harder from here. But what were your thoughts on the tip-off of Buckeyes season?
Well, they are picked as a sort of middle-of-the-pack team in the Big Ten, and I think that's probably pretty accurate. They're so young and so green. They really just bring three players back that had any kind of time last year: Mark Loving, Jay Sean Tate, and Keita Bates-Diop.
Yeah.
All three pretty solid players, and they added a bunch of freshmen. The kid to watch is Jaquan Lyle, as far as I can see. Could be another D'Angelo Russell type. I'm not saying he's a one-and-done guy destined for the NBA after his freshman year, but he's the real deal. The two-guard, a 6'5" kid. He opened up in that Walsh scrimmage with like 19 points, 9 assists, 6 boards or something, and came out the other day and threw up another good game of 14 points and 8 assists or something. I can't remember his numbers from the game yesterday, but he's the real deal at the two guard, and they've got a bunch of other freshmen, including 2 first-year big men. Giddens is one, and the transfer Trevor Thompson is the other. So they're going to get improved post play, and obviously, hopefully, over the course of the year, they're going to improve. They do have some tough games on the schedule. They play Duke, they play Kentucky. They've got some brutal games in the pre-conference schedule. But I'm sure take their lumps as they go. But they're going to be fun to watch, and I'm excited about watching them. I hope that Mickey Mitchell, the one kid I've been telling you about for months from Texas, is not eligible to play right now. NCAA Clearinghouse has some issues with him. I'm not sure if it's grades or what it is. But hopefully they get him back soon, and he's eligible to join them because he's going to help them too.
Buckeyes knock off Mount St. Mary's to start their season 300th win for Coach Mata. Wednesday, we'll talk a lot of Buckeyes, hoops and football. Dan, you and I will do the thing, and unless the Browns fire somebody between now and then we'll talk about that too. But we got a lot to get into, and it should be a lot of fun. Cavs, they play tomorrow, so we'll have a bunch of things to do, man, and I can't wait to do it, Dan. You working on anything this week for EHC? You got anything going on?
I really don't. I've been slacking on the internet publishing here. A lot of other stuff going on with me. So, but I got to get back into it, and hopefully I'll give you a high sign if I got something coming up on the website.
Oh, it's all good, man. I'd rather listen to it live here on the Sports Fix anyway, baby. That's how we
There
do
you
it.
go.
And
Well,
there's
it's always fun, and look forward to catching up with you Wednesday, sir.
You got it. Have a good one, Dan.
Thank you much, Jared.
You got it. My man, Dan Wismar, long, extended Monday conversation. Thanks for the extra time today, Dan. Thanks to you guys for being with us as well, and we will continue on here in just a moment. Let's get this last break in. We'll come back. Speaking of the Cavs, I was going to dive into them here a little bit anyway, as the Cavaliers off tonight, back at it tomorrow. 8-game winning streak snapped with the double overtime loss to the Bucks the other day. We'll talk about that. I've got the in the numbers of the first 10 games for that 8-2 start for the Cavs. We'll talk a little bit about that, the Monsters, the Vikings, and more. Wrap it up. Phones are open if anybody wants to get in for the last few minutes. 216-539-7535. Let's talk some Cavs, hoops, and more. Wrapping things up when we come back here on the Sports Fix.
1993. Yo, I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. I wanna really, really, really want.
Listen to the Sports Fix
if you wanna be my lover.
The Sports Fix is now available every day on the world's largest internet radio service, iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeartRadio app, subscribe to the show, and get your fix. Football season is party season at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. And no matter who you root for, everyone wins at Harry Buffalo. Every Saturday is Coors Light College Football Saturday with $6 pitchers, 4 bottles for $10, and the Buckeyes in full HD. Every Sunday, all the Browns action with Bud Light beer specials and $10 hair of the dog pitchers.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. Have some fun.
Plus, every Monday night, catch the Monday Night Football action with some of your favorite Browns players. Football season is most definitely party season, and your headquarters is Harry Buffalo North Olmsted all winter long. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's Fantasy Sports Superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
In baseball, miracles can happen when a team works together.
2 out, bottom of the 9th, down to their last strike.
The same is true in the fight against cancer. That's why MLB has teamed up with Stand Up to Cancer. Because we believe that when we all stand up together,
41,000 on their feet,
we can make cancer history.
Now everybody's standing. What a buzz in this building.
This is beyond a dream. Stand up with MLB at standuptocancer.org.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings.
Fix. What is your name?
I'm the dude. No, that or his dudeness or duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
Dude, what do you want?
Well, it's this rug I have. It really tied the room together.
We are not a show to be swept under the rug. We are a show to be heard.
It's the Sports Fix.
Yeah. Check. Welcome back to the Sports Fix Live. J-Rocc back with you, finishing things up. Thanks to Dan Wismar from Everybody Hates Cleveland for joining us. Dan will be back in the house on Wednesday. We'll talk a whole lot more about the Ohio State Buckeyes. Football getting ready for Michigan State. Basketball tipping things off as they got started the other day against Mount St. Mary's. Vikings got started the other day as well against Akron. If you guys want to get in on the conversation, last chance, 216-539-7535. 216-539-7535. As a matter of fact, looks like we got a call on the hotline during the show. Let's see if I can pull this up. And caller, you're up on the Sports Fix.
Hello, J-Rocc. This is Big Bob from Bristol, Connecticut.
My man.
Calling Cleveland's best sports show.
Appreciate it.
How you guys doing, man? Hope everybody is nice and warm out there in Cleveland. And
damn, Skippy.
Few more months, baby. And it's young Indians time. Pretty soon, man. All right, everybody. You guys have a great day out there in sparkling Cleveland. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
There's your reminder in November from my man Big Bob from Bristol that it's never too early to start getting ready for them young Indians, baby, as Hot Stove League is upon us. Later this week, Indians fans, Mike Brandenberry and I are going to talk a little bit about that and where the Indians may head in this one. But thanks to Big Bob there for the heads up. I saw my man Bruce in the chat room, by the way. He does some ticket sales for the Indians, and as we've mentioned before, they've got the holiday special going on. Here's a free plug for you, Tribe, because I'm trying to fill them seats up just like you. 6-game holiday packages begins, November 23rd, $84, and then you can get opening day included in that 6-game package. Not a bad deal there for the holidays. Hey, nothing like the gift of baseball for Christmas. So hook somebody up if you can, and there's a good idea there for the holiday season coming up. It's just, under 40 days away. Speaking of the holiday season, guys, real quick, the holiday season for us is going to be pretty good too, because I've got some interesting things to give away during the month of December. Every episode that we do during the month of December leading up until Christmas, I'm going to have a different goodie. Speaking of, I'm halfway through reading it myself. I just got him over the weekend. My man Dan Coughlin's newest book, Let's Have Another, got to me in the mail here, and not only a copy for me, but I've got a couple of copies to give away to you guys. But we're going to get Dan Coughlin on the show here, hopefully next week. I'm going to work out the scheduling. We're going to get Dan on the show to talk about another round of Cleveland sports stories and this great book, and we're going to get a copy in somebody's hands, and we're going to give away copies throughout December of The Making of Major League, of Tribe Town, and Let's Have Another, and Ohio Warriors, and Cleveland's Finest, and all the different books that we talk about here on the show. So we'll have some fun during the month of December, hooking some of you guys up as well. But can't wait to get Dan on the show. It will be a lot of fun. I'm halfway through this one here, and what's cool is that, obviously for us, they're real hardcore Cleveland sports fans. We've heard these stories, a lot of them, over and over. What Dan did is, he's 3 books in. I mean, he did Pass the Nuts and Crazy with the Papers to Prove It. And even though every sports writer has told those same legendary stories, this book is only about half of the ones that you've heard before. He did a really good job of finding a lot of stories that don't have the same notoriety and the same repetitive retail value that some of the others. But even the ones that you've heard before, he found new tweaks, new avenues to take them, new bits of information to put in there. It's a good one. It's called Let's Have Another, and I'm about halfway through. Not even. I think I'm maybe about 40% of the way through it so far. I'm hoping to have it finished here tonight and then get Dan lined up on the show. It's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. When it was the last time we had him on the show, that's for sure. He ended up taking over the Sports Fix for hours, and he can gladly do the same thing again. But that's what's sitting here right on my desk and on my plate for the next couple of days, and for you guys coming up and throughout December. As I said, 12 days of the Sports Fix, baby. Something, I don't know if it exactly adds up to 12, but whatever. It's the December days of the Sports Fix, and we will be hooking you guys up throughout the month of December as we lead to the holidays. Remember, by the way, speaking of that, the show will only be Mondays and Fridays for the remainder of 2015, and going forward from there. After this week, Wednesday, we will be live. Dan will be back in the house with us. But after this week, it will be Monday, Friday only, at least for the remainder of this year. So just keep that in mind, you guys. Many of you listen on digital delay anyway, so it won't affect you too much. Those of you that do listen live, just giving you the heads up so you're not coming around on Wednesday going, where you at, Big Daddy? So just a heads up, I'll be at the school teaching you guys. All right, that's some stuff to look forward to, you guys, as well. Getting back into the show here and talking about a few things. The Vikes, as I was mentioning before I had to go on the plug of the 12 Days of Christmas campaign there. CSU, rough start of the season for them. It's going to be up and down for the Vikes, by the way, throughout their season, as we've talked about, with the lack of experience, the lack of starters coming back, all of that stuff. Vikings took that young squad out to the floor the other night as part of the Coaches and Cancer doubleheader, and they fell to the University of Akron 65-53 to start off the season. Really, the story was told in the first half. Akron practically doubled up the Vikings, 40-22 in the first half. Antino Jackson, Reggie McAdams, both double-digit scores, and they piled up that big lead early as both teams were kicking off their season. Vikings, they made a nice run in the second half. They won the second half battle, but it wasn't enough to close the final score. Just fell way too far down in the first half, and that was led by a comeback here. Just as the Vikings pulled back, they got it within, I think it was less than 10. I think the closest that they had it was an 8-point game with about 7 minutes left in the second half. The Vikings had whittled that lead down, and Terrell Hales jumped in, and he had a dunk, he had a rebound, he had a jumper, back-to-back possessions, but that was it. That was as close as the Vikes got. Akron immediately went on a 12-2 run, and all of a sudden, with 5.5 minutes left, that lead was all the way back to 21, undid all the work that the Vikings did to come back, and that would be the end of it for them. Andre Yates led the way, 13 points for the Vikings. DeMonte Flanagan had 11 for the Vikings as well. I almost called them the Buckeyes there. Got Buckeyes on the brain. But unfortunately, too little too late for Coach Waters' Vikings as they look to get back out there and bounce back from that one coming up here. Let's see. What do they have next on the schedule as I pull the Vikings schedule up here? Vikings fell to Akron there. They've got some tough early season challenges. We were talking to Coach about that. He's made it a function of the scheduling here to go after some tougher matchups in the early part of the season coming up. Buckeyes. See, there I go, calling them the Buckeyes again. They are off tonight. I know they've got Rhode Island coming up this weekend as a part of the tournament there. I know they've got Maryland, which is, I believe they're up to 3 in the rankings right now, but they've got Maryland coming up next week. And Malone University next on tap. That's tomorrow night. Vikings kick things off at home. It's the home opener for CSU, 7 p.m. at the Wolstein Center. Malone University visits as the Vikings look to reverse the trend of that first game of the season and get themselves to 1-1 on the young season. Monsters with a sweep of the Grand Rapids Griffins over the weekend, including a 5-1 victory the other night at the Q. Big win for the Monsters, and a big crowd, too. Over 10,000, nearly 10,300 fans at the Q. Monsters rolled out with that 5-1 win, and they've rolled out to a heck of a start to the season. Remember, last 3 or 4 years, we've talked about it with Ben Holden and with Doug Plagans, those slow starts to the Monsters and how early games count for points just as much as the late season games. Monsters in the early part of the season have now pulled into a tie for second place in the Central Division. They have a points percentage of 69, basically means they get points in 60. They get 69% of the points that are available to them, basically just short of 70%. They're 8-3-0-2 to start the season. They went off to a big 3-0 run to start the game as they went back-to-back early. Sonny Milano had a goal. Josh Anderson as well as Ryan Craig put in those first 3 to run out to that early lead, and it was off and running for the Monsters from there. Tie that into the 3-2 victory that they had in the shootout a few days before. That's back-to-back victories against the Griffins, and a week to enjoy them before they get back on the road, and they'll have 2 against the Iowa Wild this Friday and Saturday coming up from Des Moines, Iowa, and we'll try to catch up with Tony Brown this week, talk to him about that before the Monsters head out for town. I'll try to get Tony on the Wednesday show here, talk about the Monsters' wins against the Griffins and their impending road trip out to Iowa to take on the Wild. 2 shots coming up this weekend. Cavaliers, let's jump in here before we wind this thing down, because I wanted to talk a little bit with the Cavs having a night off. They've hit the 10-game point in their season. We basically, the first kind of checkpoint that you look at, 8-2. There's good and there's bad coming out of that, you guys, by the way, as we look at what they've done. The bad is that they have not played the strongest level of competition after a good start, and I still think that the Grizzlies kind of mar that record just a little bit because they're better than their record is. Either way, 24-34 is the combined winning percentage of the teams that they've played in their first 10 games. So clearly it's not the toughest gauntlet of teams that you'll face. And so there's tons of ways to learn. Like, there were some videos going around over the weekend of LeBron. I know the one clip where he MF'd him a little bit on the court and say, hey, you MFers come to play or what? And they happened to catch him right on the camera there, not being so blunt, but that's exactly what they caught him saying on the video screen, and it's gone around viral. But he made a lot of very good points, did LeBron, after the game the other night, and how the Cavaliers need, and this is the focus that they got to have, and LeBron does know, because he has been there with teams that have grown to be the kind of team that can turn the flip switch on and off. Like, hey, the Heat in years 2 and 3 had got to that point. Really, year 3, they got to that point where they could flip it on and off and know that they could rest and then come back and rest and come back. These Cavs are playing that way now, but they're not that team yet. But they can be. LeBron kept stressing, hey, these guys aren't there yet, but we can be. And that's what they got to figure out now. Right now, they're in that bring in it every night learning phase, because there's still times, as we see, where the light's on and then times where it's off. Defensively, 7th in the league in defensive efficiency. That's great. That's the side that they need to continue to stick to, and that's what has helped them so far here throughout the early part of the season. That's one of the big things. Offensive efficiency, too. This team is 4th in the league offensive efficiency, and that's not just points scored, but that's the efficiency that they do when they have the ball. Their assist-to-turnover ratio is very good, 24-14 average for the game, which is in the top third of the league. They're 4th in the league in assists per game, just a hair over 24. That means they're sharing the ball. Those are all the good things that you can continue to take out of this. Obviously, Kevin Love 17, 12, and 3 to start the season as he's continued to bring a top caliber level. Mo Williams, Delly, Jefferson, the whole crew that's going to be the core of your second unit when you get into the second half of the season have been incredibly strong. I mean, Mo and Delly have combined at the point 23 points, 11 assists, 6 boards, and I think a couple of steals a game as well, too. Jefferson, as I mentioned, he's at about 9 points a game, which isn't bad considering the minutes that he's playing. But the key is that he's at about 45% for 3, which is exactly what you want Richard Jefferson to be doing. Tristan Thompson's right back where he left off, giving you 8 and 9 coming off the bench right now. And one of the biggest things that I saw pointed out, and this is the depth that we've talked about. Last year, the Cavaliers entered the playoffs as the lowest scoring bench in the entire NBA. This year, and that's with Irving and Shumpert not playing, and 2 of the bench players having to step into starting roles, the Cavs have now jumped up, and it's still it's incremental. You don't jump from last in the league to first overnight, but they've now moved up nearly 10 spots in the rankings there, and again, that will get much stronger when those 2 players, and I'm kind of assuming, that there'll be Jefferson and Mo Williams when this thing shakes out and Shumpert steps back into his spot in the Smith and Irving. So you'll strengthen the bench when those starters return, and those starters then move back down to the bench. So they should be in the top half of the league there. For one season, going from last in the league in bench scoring to the middle of the league, I think that's a pretty good improvement. I mean, tons of things good that you take out of it. What I love is that is not impressing the Cavaliers at all, and nor should it, because that's where good teams die in the playoffs, is when they look at their record, when you look at the Cavs and you go, hey, remember the 2007, 8, 9, 10, those years, these guys are winning 50, 60 games. They're one of the best teams in the league statistically, never good enough to get anything done in the playoffs. So there can be soft 50 and 60 win seasons, and we've seen it. Every team thinks that they're strong going into the playoffs, and then they find all their weaknesses. I prefer for them to say, hey, we suck every day while they're 8-2, rather than say, hey, we're sweet. Because as long as you think you suck at 8-2, you're working to get better. And those are the great teams, guys, the ones that work to get better while they're already good. While they're already good, man. That's the hardest lesson to learn in sports, is working to be better when you're already good, because you start to feel like you're there already and you don't realize that everybody else is still working. You got to keep working too. I brought up the bad. 24-34 for the teams that they've played early on, so you've definitely got some lesser lights that you've taken on. 3-point percentage could improve. Cavs 16th in the league right now at 33%. Here's the biggest thing that they can improve right now, because it's focus and concentration. They're nearly dead last in the league in free throws, under 70%. As a whole, I think the Cavs are costing themselves 7, 8, 9, 10 points a game with these missed free throws that they've had, and they're gonna come in more key spots than they have. Who cares if you're missing free throws in the first 10 games, but if you don't fix that, you'll be missing free throws in the last 10 games, and that's a big freaking deal. So I think free throw percentage as a team is something that they need, and I don't know what you do at that level. You just shoot free throws. I don't know. Go shoot 100 more before every game. I don't know how you fix it. They do. That's their job. Go fix it. Cavs, defensively, 24th in the league at blocks per game, only 4 per game, so definitely not part of it. But their forte is crashing the boards, crashing the bodies. Those are things that they could pick on. Same with steals per game. I think they're 27th in the league. So they've got places to win statistically from the defense, or places to improve, statistically from the blocking, the stealing percentage, even though that's where numbers will fool you, because the defensive efficiency is the number that I look at, and the Cavaliers are top 5 in the league in that category compared to the bottom statistically here. Some other things to look at: J.R. Smith, tough start early on for him. It's taken him a minute to get his stride. I think he's only about 6 points a game right now, and only 30% shooting from the field, 25 from 3, and only 33% from the line. Small sample size, but J.R. Smith, his injury is obviously giving him a bit of a slow comeback. And those are all things. And continuing to work on the rotations. Anderson Varejao finding his way. Mozgov. And, I saw somebody mention him to me on Facebook the other day. Mozgov down statistically from last season. I mean, if you didn't expect that, then you're not looking at what the Cavs are doing. I mean, of course, he's going to be down a couple rebounds a game because the Cavs are such a strong rebounding team. Kevin Love is grabbing a couple extra boards a game. Tristan's grabbing a couple extra boards a game. There's less boards to go around. So, yeah, to me, kind of expected. I think his points are down a point or two a game too, but they're deeper in the middle. So I'm not 100% up like some people are about that. But I like where LeBron was coming from, and I like that he's being very realistic about it. He said, I like that we've had it good to start the season, but I said before the season, even though we're playing good ball, we're not this team just yet. We can be this team, but we're not this team just yet. We've got to take it to heart. We've got to continue to do it on defense. All the things that the great teams don't do, that's what we've got to continue to follow. We have the talent, but talent doesn't win championships. It wins games. It doesn't win championships, and that's a great point. And I'm glad that that's the mindset that these cats are in at 8-2, because it'd be way too easy to dance around and say, hey, man, the Cavs are going to the championship, and hey, you can believe it. But if they're believing it now, we got trouble. So I like that. They got a day off here before they get to go back out there and try to snap that one-game losing streak that they're on and get ready to get back out there for the Cavs here coming up this week. Let me look at the schedule here, what we've got coming up over the next couple of games for the Cavaliers here, looking down the run as they get back to the queue. They had a couple on the road. You've got the Pistons, obviously, tomorrow. And to me, that's got its matchup issues as well. We talked about these 3 on the road coming up. They split the first 2. Detroit's another team that's got some interesting pieces, as they're around 500 to start the season, but they've got some bodies. Obviously, Andre Drummond is the main one that you think about when you look at them. He's just done some crazy things to start the season. There's a couple, I think he's got 2 or 3 games where he's nearly hit 30 rebounds in the game. So the Cavs are going to need to put everybody they've got on Drummond here for that one there. But I mean, you got Reggie Jackson. You got lots of guys here that bring it on a night in, night out basis, and that's a young squad still finding itself out over there. Cavs get back to the queue. We'll talk about that on Wednesday as they've got a couple at home following these few on the road. Meanwhile, by the way, the Golden State Warriors continue to roll on, 11-0 now to start the season, and no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Those guys are just sick, just absolutely sick. I saw something the other day. I mentioned it to you guys about Steph Curry. Everybody talks about his shot, but man, defensively, I think that he, and that's why I say, I mean, we're 10 games, 11 games in for them, but man, if he continues to do what he's done, then he could win the MVP and the most improved player, because I think he's taken his defense to a whole nother level, which was underrated, I think, to begin with. Even I slept on him a little bit defensively, but boy, you ain't sleeping on him defensively now, because he's out there balling, and it is what it is. I hear you, Charles, but it is what it is, man, and you can't hate on good, and they are definitely balling over there right now for Golden State. Long season to go, man. I mean, they haven't stumbled, they haven't dealt with injuries, they haven't dealt with anything yet. So let's see how they are at the end of the season, too. While everybody's telling us to slow our roll, let's see them, too. But, I mean, I've watched a few of their games, and they just play basketball very well as a team. I will give them that. And I think, like I said, with Curry, the thing that I noticed the most is that he really defensively has taken it to another level. But let's see. Let's see how things play out. We got, last I checked, about 80 or 71 more of these things to go for Golden State, 72 for the Cavaliers, and then the whole 6 months of playoffs to go before we get to the end of it. So we'll see. But it's been a good start. Those are the teams everybody sees it coming down to at the end, and they have not let anybody down in the early part of the season so far. All right, guys, we're getting ready to let it down, put it down for the day, land this thing on the runway, and let's get ready to head out of here for the day. We still got Wednesday coming back with Dan Wismar, talking a lot of Buckeyes, talking a lot of basketball with the Buckeyes getting back at it, Vikings, Cavaliers, Buckeyes getting ready for Michigan State on the football field. If the Browns fire anybody, we'll be here to talk about it. If they don't, they may get brought up as well there too. We'll talk about all of that. We'll try to get my man Tony Brown from the Lake Erie Monsters in here on the conversation as well, as he joins us midweek. We'll get an update on the Monsters as they get ready to head out to Iowa for the weekend. Oh, man. Thank you guys so much for being with us here today as I continue to wind things down. Had a little bit of a freeze on my computer. Hopefully you guys are still hearing me talk. We made it through the show without anything going wrong. So if it's starting to glitch now, that's okay, because we're on the way out the door. Hopefully we can come back at it again. No problems on Wednesday. Guys, be here with us again. Same bat time, same bat channel. Live at noon right here across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland and beyond. If you're hearing me, I'm hearing you. I love you. I'll see you Wednesday, baby, noon, right here on the Sports Fix.
Anywhere, put your hands up in the air. Everybody say yeah, yeah, yeah.